Calling Parks and Rec meeting to order and welcome. Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you please read roll call?
Sure. Clark.
Here.
Corvino.
Here.
Ermeling is absent and excused. Easker
Here.
and Wyland.
Do we have a motion to approve minutes from September 25th?
I so move.
By Easker,
I'll second that.
second by Corvino. Motion's been approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any more discussion? Opposed? Motion passed. See any public comments?
So there's some people here from youth hockey. Oh, right?
Should I speak? Yeah.
You want to make a public comment? So I don't have you on the agenda because you didn't contact me back saying you wanted to be on the agenda. So if you have public comments now, you can. And also when we actually get to the master plan review later, you can also comment at that point. But if you want to make a comment right now, you can.
Yeah, I'll just start out. I'm Ryan Gardner. I'm here on behalf of Everest Youth Hockey. We're aware that the village is going to be reconfiguring Kennedy Park. And we would love to get in and have some sort of partnership with the village in order to create, I guess, a facility, an outdoor ice facility that, you know, Everest Youth Hockey would have some sort of exclusive use of, you know, in exchange for a financial commitment from us. So I guess that's what I'm here to do today. You know, when I played youth hockey, I skated once or twice in Merrill, and that was the last outdoor facility. Everything has gone indoor over the last 30 years. It's getting to the point now where, you know, the NHL has this winter classic where they play a game at Wrigley Field or wherever, you know, a bunch of different places around the country. You know, the idea of us having some sort of outdoor facility, and we're thinking like a concrete pad to hold the temperature down so we can actually reliably have ice from, you know, November to March kind of thing, and some sort of overhead cover. But this concept of having outdoor ice, you know, we would be interested in having like tournaments on it, where we'd be drawing people from outside the area. You know, we're just kind of excited about it in general. So I guess I'm here to kind of gauge everyone's, to kind of gauge the, what sort of needs to be done to kind of move forward with something like this.
Yeah, so I'm a former youth hockey player as well, and I'm old enough to have played outside at Wapaka, at Merrill, at Medford. So with Merrill being the last one, do you have an example of sort of someplace that you could point to and say, yeah, they're doing what we think is a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, Wassa does it with a pond, or Mosinee does it with a pond hockey tournament every year.
Yeah, so we've played on the Labatt's pond hockey thing up in Eagle River.
Oh yeah, the Eagle, yeah, that one's huge. I mean, they get lots of representation from Michigan at that one too.
So, okay, so something similar to that, okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to see.
But again, it would not like the Eagle River, you know, we'd be more at the youth level, you know, where we're not having the old timers come in.
Okay, all right, that's helpful.
So we're not gonna get you out on the ice. But thank you, Sean, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Would you be able to share your screen now?
Okay, so we're ready.
No other public comments? Okay.
So presentation from Rattler Corporation.
Good evening. On behalf of Rattler Corporation, we want to thank the Village of Weston for working through the comprehensive outdoor recreational planning process with us. We're very excited to be here tonight. As part of this process, we'll walk through what the corp is, how we've come to develop your specific corp for your municipality. But the other thing we'll do this evening is look at updated master plans for both Kennedy and Prohaska Park. Depending on when you want us to do those, we can go over those right after we're done with with the court.
It's all listed on the agenda too.
Perfect. Perfect. So again, I'm Ross Rattler, landscape architect and partner with Rattler Corporation. We specialize in comprehensive outdoor rec planning throughout the state of Wisconsin. And again, we're very excited to have worked with you as part of this process. Your committee and others have had the opportunity to review drafts of the comprehensive outdoor recreational plan. So tonight, essentially what we're presenting to you is the finalized corp for your review and approval. So really what we want to do at this point is review what is your comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. It's a formal document designed to assist communities in planning and developing parks and open space. Most importantly, it's a document that you folks need to have for a grant to become grant eligible for funding. And that's what this document does and is very important for you. A corp establishes park related goals and objectives, updates demographic information about the village, inventories existing park and your existing park and recreation facilities, analyzes parkland and recreation needs using several metrics. It customizes recommendations by seeking and incorporating community input, integrates the recommendations into a capital improvements plan, which each project is described and given priority for completion. It identifies a list of potential funding programs and grant opportunities, and its approval is required for a municipality to apply for receive state and federal grants. Like I said before, it's a very important part of receiving that grant funding. Your corp is a little bit different than our typical approach to a corp from a formatting standpoint. It is a document that will be integrated into your comprehensive plan. So what we did as part of this corp is we broke it into 2 different volumes. We have plan volume 1, which is the conditions and issues, which is chapter 9 of your comprehensive plan. Within this section, we have the overview of the corp. The parkland 9.2 is your parkland inventory. 9.3 is the parkland analysis. 9.4 is the needs assessment. 9.5 is your implementation strategies, and 9.6 includes the references. The important parts are the recommendations that follows chapter 7 of your comprehensive plan, plan volume 2. And that's where you'll have the section 7.1, the introduction, and section 7.2 for the recommendations. So overview and introduction, really what these sections do is that addresses your mission and vision statements for your specific municipality. It addresses the goals and objectives of the comprehensive outdoor recreational plan. It looks at some of your more current planning and construction accomplishments, projects that you guys have done more recently. It addresses the policies of your municipality, and specifically those were developed based on the previous comprehensive plan. So we really pulled off those to develop the policies. And then it specifically addresses the planning process that we took to develop your comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. The parkland inventory, section 9.2, it's really the definitions and classifications of the different types of parks that you have throughout your municipality. And these descriptions and classifications are based on NRPA standards. So you guys follow very closely or directly in line with how the NRPA addresses those. So you have your mini parks, which are parks smaller than 1 acre. You have your neighborhood parks, which are 5 to 15 acres. Your community parks, which are greater than 20 acres. A special use park, which really covers a broad range of parks and recreation facilities, and the size do vary. The same would go for natural resource areas. What we did, section 9.2, as part of the parkland inventory, is we met with your staff, being Sean, and we walked each and every one of your parks throughout the community. And we break down each individual park into, just like the graphic that you're seeing here, where we identify the name of the park, what type of park it is, the location of the park, the overall size, the parcel number, and then all of the amenities that exist in each individual park. Then what we do is we develop a parkland inventory map, which addresses the location of each individual park throughout the community. And really what this does is it helps us to identify not only the type of park, but the service area that each park has. And as we work through these maps, what you'll come to find is that these are what help us identify where potential needs may be in your community based on the service area, where there may be gaps within your community, where potential acquisition and or park additions make sense for you. Also, as part of the parkland inventory process, we create a matrix. We break down that matrix based on park type. And what's nice about this graphic is that it shows specifically all the different amenities that exist in each park. So if you're wondering, or at some point somebody has any question with regards to what they can do at one of your parks, this matrix is a great element to be able to identify exactly what they can do in each one of your parks. The parkland analysis, we broke down your 3 neighborhood parks, your 4 community parks, and your 1 conservancy park. Obviously you have 8 city-owned NRPA classified parks in your community. And I think the most important thing that this graphic shows is that based on the NRPA standards and the different parks that you do have, they recommend 6.25 to 10.5 acres per thousand. And you guys are looking really good in terms of the parkland that you do provide to your community at roughly 15.65 acres per thousand. So total developed parkland, you have 17.30 acres per thousand. This parkland analysis and approach takes into account your acreage standard comparison, the service area radius that I was talking about earlier, and then the NRPA suggested recreational standards comparison. We look at community input, and then we also look at the regional and state trends. Here's a good graphic again to show obviously the parkland inventory laid over the top of your zoning map. And really, again, what this allows us to do is identify the service areas and where you potentially could look at parkland expansion in the future. Based on that map that you've seen here, here's a graphic that essentially shows you where, with growth in your community, parkland makes sense for potential acquisitions in the future. The needs assessment portion is very important. We did a series of online surveys for public input starting in May 12th through June 10th. There were 292 completed online surveys. User group online surveys were also provided during that time. We had a great public input meeting with your community on June 26th and a user group input meeting following on June 29th. We had another meeting with staff on June 9th. Prior to that, there are many different ways for people to provide input as part of the comprehensive outdoor planning process. But you guys did have a great coverage with your survey. So some of the highlights I think it's important to cover on, most used parks in your community. Obviously we got Kennedy, then Mockmuller, Yellowbanks, Kellyland, followed by the dog park. 66% of the folks that took those surveys were satisfied or very satisfied with the park system. The top 5 highest rated amenities included your aquatic facility, your paved trails, park signage, parking lots, and then your unpaved trails. Top 5 most important park amenities included your restrooms, aquatic facility, playground equipment, trails, paved and unpaved. Very importantly, the top 3 most requested amenities to be added would be additional restrooms, playground equipment, and trails, paved or unpaved. About half the general comments including compliments to the park department, which you guys are doing here. So that's great to hear. Facilities used in other communities, talked about trails, playgrounds, pickleball, and tennis courts, and the aquatic facilities. From an implementation strategy standpoint, we look at all of the information that we gather and we put together a capital improvement spreadsheet. And what this does is it identifies all the proposed improvements to each individual park, and it breaks them into years 1 to 4, years 4 to 10, and then years 10 on. So really what we're trying to do is identify priority as to when those improvements would happen. And then it also associates a proposed budget with each one of the improvements over time. And also as part of that, we're identifying the different funding options that you folks have from a grant standpoint. The references are important. Really what we do is we put together maps for each individual park, identifying the parcel. I think it includes things like we'll look at tonight, like the Kennedy Park Master Plan and the Prohaska Park Master Plan, and also looks at things like the park classifications like we had talked about previously. Section 7.2, you're looking at the recommendations, the general and specific recommendations for the park and maintenance of the park. each individual park as part of this process is put together with a concept, identifying the improvements that we talked about as part of the implementation strategy. So you have a concept showing specifically what each improvement would be at each park. We also include things like your trail plans or other plans throughout the community for future improvements. Within this section is where all that fall. We have the landscape maintenance guidelines there as well, things of that nature. So really that is a summary of the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. We're here tonight to listen to any questions that you may have. Either I can answer or Rebecca can answer. Thank you.
Any comments from the committee? I did get a email from a board member regarding a couple small changes in the document.
Okay.
I also got a call from another trustee who's sitting in the audience regarding Mockmiller specifically. Just because in the initial drawing, we showed 12 pickleball courts. And we upped it to 16, but the estimate shows 6.
Okay.
And then also making sure that we have shade restrooms, which we discussed all that, as far as making sure we have that. And I understand
As
that.
part of the pickleball facility.
Yes, I understand this is not a master plan, but it is a plan to guide us for the next 5 years.
Yep.
So just making sure that we have that within there. And anything else that I may have missed from the comments from Shane.
My feeling has 12.
There's 12, but we're looking at 16. It just shows 12. And then if you look in the estimate, it shows an estimate for 6.
And then Kellyland, there's still pickleball as well.
Right, and we had talked about removing that just because of the neighborhood being so close. And it was just, it's not major, it's just a couple, minor changes as far as that.
Maybe we could do the hockey thing.
So, and we also talked about possibly doing something different at Yellow Banks if we decided to bring this golf course there. Possibly do a pickleball courts there. Those are typically not grant eligible anyways, so if they're not in the plan, it's not, but support facilities like restrooms possibly, or shelter area, which would be more passive versus active use, maybe more grant eligible. Pickleball courts would be more likely not eligible. There used to be funds eligible for active use stuff, but it was literally like 1/10 of what's available for passive.
Kim, go ahead.
I don't know if he wants me to read it or he just sent it in the chat. Jim wrote to everybody, what is the current annual maintenance cost for our parks? What would be the cost, or what would the cost be for the proposed expansion plan?
So maintenance costs on all the parks. With expansion.
Correct, he said correct.
Our annual budget is just over 400,000 right now. That includes all staff, obviously, and all our current maintenance. We did not put together a cost for future maintenance of expanding the parks at this point.
Current and proposed, he wanted to know.
Yeah, and we did not do a maintenance cost for future. Our current annual budget for parks is just over 400,000. That includes 4 staff.
Any his comments or no?
And he stated that we need to do this before we do any changes to the current plan, which it is a plan and it's not set in stone that we're doing all of this. It is just to make sure that future expansion improvements are planned out. And anything would go to the village committees and board before it would get approved to do anything as far as these plans.
So do we?
Yeah, and then the next comment is if the parks are expanded, how will we repair and maintain them? So just making sure we plan for the future as far as maintenance, et cetera, which is, you know, there's certain times where I think a lot of communities don't. They just build and then figure it out, which we've seen that at certain times with certain items throughout communities, where you want to grow and you build it, and then you don't plan for how you're gonna cover it with staff, and then cover the maintenance costs.
So if we go ahead and approve this draft, we can still make changes.
Yeah, I mean, so if you read the motion that I wrote in the packet, it is, you know, approve the way it sits or approve with changes. So if there's changes you'd like included, they can make changes, but the document can still be approved at this point. Like I said, it is just a plan, and plans change all the time. I mean, you know, we can change it next year if we want, or the year after, or the year after, or the year after. Doesn't mean we have to follow through with what's within the plan.
So I have a quick question. So looking at funding sources and grant applications and those sort of things towards the future. So if we move to approve it today and send it through the process, then with all the ability to be dynamic going forward, is the document itself complete enough for us to be going forward, fundraising, grant writing, all of the work that Sean does?
Yeah. I think you look at the format of the comprehensive outdoor rec plans that we always do. The document itself and what is contained within this document gives you everything you need to be granted. Absolutely. And that's, as I stated by starting, one of the most important things about this plan is being an amendment or part of your comprehensive plan that does give you guys that opportunity. That's the big one. And if you look at those funding agencies, as you look through that, there's a bunch of different stuff in there that'll probably get you guys thinking, you know, what can we do from a grant standpoint? There's a lot out there, so.
Yeah. So just my professional experience with writing public health grants to the federal government and not having sort of the supplementary information. Okay, now I'm gonna start all over. I just want to make sure that this is complete.
Yep. Yeah. Our comprehensive plan, as you look at our comprehensive outdoor rec plan compared to others, there's a lot more, you know, you guys say, yeah, there's a lot of information here, but there's a lot more than information in that document than you typically see. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, literally, they pretty much doubled the size of our previous corp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's more detail in it. And the other part about it is tonight is basically approving the corp.
Yeah.
It will not get adopted, actually. For a few months yet. I'm correct, right? A couple months?
Right, there's a bigger process that has to happen.
Because it is part of our comprehensive plan,
Yeah,
it actually
right.
won't be adopted, because it has to go through plan commission, it has to go through public hearing, correct?
Correct.
For the adoption
I
process,
mean, if
so
you needed ahead of time, the board could approve it and then we could take it through. the
then be ready
comprehensive plan.
to go to plan commission and then for future adoption,
Right,
so. Like I said, there are a few changes that were requested. I have two from trustee Pincinel and then from trustee Zagami. But otherwise, I have not received anything else besides that. As far as our review, I mean, I've thoroughly reviewed the document. You know, and we talked about it at the last meeting. I kind of hit high points because it was like, do you really want to sit and have me go through 134 pages in front of you? It was already a 3+ hour meeting. So I tried to hit the highlights, the changes that came out of the staff review, and then anything that came up within the committee during that review process, because we have had the document since August 26th. I sent it to you guys on August 29th, so we've had it 2+ months. And there was really minor changes, relatively minor changes between August version and the current version.
We clearly address all of those revisions that are requested. We have a big long spreadsheet of all the revisions and.
We met with them prior to this, 4 weeks ago, to go over, and they had all the questions laid out in 2 pages plus of what we requested, and to make sure that we were clear with what we requested, you know, as far as that, because it was translated via email, which, You know, it's not the same as actually sitting there and talking to a person and telling them what we're thinking on each one. And we also reviewed the master plans at that point. So.
I also have some recommendations. Are those, well, I see the dog park lighting in here. Is there, and it says building update allowance. What exactly does that mean?
So that would include updating the shelter bathrooms. So building update, you know, and we talked about dog park lighting. You know, it's a tough one just because it is on a landfill. So we can't, you know, put posts in. There would have to be solar lighting attached to what's currently there. Or in the non-cap areas, which we currently do have a light at the entrance, and we do have some solar lights on half a dozen boxes out there. But most of us are not out there at night, so we don't know
It's
if
the
they're
back corner.
the far, yeah,
It's
the southeast corner.
As somebody who is out there at night, because I have a relentless dog, it's the back corner, and that's what the other users of the dog park have explained to us that, yeah, I mean, everything's fine, but once you get back to that back corner, you were just walking in the dark and hearing weird noises. Yeah, and so it's.
And the idea of the solar lights was more like a beacon.
Yeah.
Somewhere, a
Just
location
something to
for you to
break
go
the
to.
darkness.
It wasn't actually lighting up the
No.
park, so we're talking about
No.
33 acres of area, which would be a, you know, $1 billion lighting project to light it up. If we actually wanted to light it up for, you know, that type of use, but solar lights are relatively cheap. We have more testing boxes out there where we can add some more beacons. Obviously, like I said, the electricity, the capital landfill are challenges as far as lighting up more area. But it's definitely something we can do. And I'm not sure if I got any other changes from you, Jamie.
Could we possibly think about doing like an open shelter area? I'm not sure.
In the dog park,
Yeah.
just shade, just shade in general.
Shade at the dog park.
Well, I have
We
plans
also-
for having events for
Oh, yeah.
pet
Oh,
licensing
yeah.
and
Yes.
whatnot, so.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a shelter.
And we have some people on staff that are thinking about more ideas for the dog park, and if you've been around, I mean, we used to hold an annual Halloween event, dress your dog contest at the dog park, and it was when we had a contract with the Humane Society that they provided that. We had a whole bunch of other people show up, you know, as far as groups. It was a great event. People were disappointed when we got rid of it. Contract ended, village staff couldn't like carry it on their own. So, and we would just hold it at the shelter, you know, Kelly Land Shelter there. So if we get some people to grasp these ideas and, you know, help or, you know, run them, I think, you know, it's something that we could definitely start doing again. Because it was great. It was a lot of fun, but we also had more participation from the public because we used to have annual cleanup days too, to clean up the dog park. And I think Dino was part of the like group of 5 or 7 that would come clean it all up before everybody else showed up.
Never tasted that much poop in my life.
So. And Jim just wants to make sure that we understand the repair and maintenance costs of, you know, anything that happens within our parks.
Are there any other recommendations? And so, the one pickleball that's. What park, that was Kelly Lane, so we're gonna take that out, or
Yeah.
we don't have?
Yeah, we talked about removing that just due to the houses being so close. And trying to move everything to Mockmeadow because there's no homes out there.
Mhm.
And then we talked about possibly doing something at Yellow Banks, but we don't have a decision as far as, you know, if we're gonna keep disc golf or not there. So I don't think it's necessary at this point to have it included. Because like I said, these are just plans that can change daily, weekly, monthly, yearly.
So it's not too late to add a hockey rink?
No. I mean,
Something we can talk about.
you can approve it with changes, if you wanna approve it. With the changes we discussed. But And that was the goal. I mean, like I said, it's not getting adopted. I mean, if we need to make changes, we can make changes even after it's approved. Village staff can. So it's really just, we have a contract with our consultant, you know, and our projected timeline was that we would be done by November. And we're pretty close to that right at this point. Nothing would go to the village board till November 20th. As far as this, and so we can definitely obviously make the changes and get that done before the November 20th board meeting.
So we can move to recommend approving the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan with changes.
Yep, I'll second.
First by Trevino, second by Easter.
On the question,
Couple questions, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
yeah, go ahead.
How many parking do you have at Immaculate Park?
it's current parking.
How many?
There's about 150 stalls there.
150 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, maybe you want to take a look at it, because you got 64 player playing, 64 waiting to play. You add them up, plus your handicap, plus your spectator, and you see that.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, please add the shade area to the west side of the courts. The way I saw your layout, that way it won't be part of the road, part of the highway.
Okay.
And also you need at least a couple of gates each side of it, and east and west side of it. No.
For the
north and south.
pickleball court layout specifically.
Yeah, north and south of it.
Okay.
North and south of it.
And the layout's just proposed because we also anticipated T-ball eventually leaving Mockmuller and then actually putting the course
His layout was good
on the
because
east side.
it was north and south,
So, yeah.
so that's good.
I think what's really important to understand too is as you look at the proposed improvements in the recommendation section for each park, that is not set in stone. So obviously it's looking at big picture ideas for how this can fit in that park specifically.
Right.
It's in the process, and yes, it's a general framework for how these improvements can be incorporated into your parks. But it's very very important, like you're saying, as you get into the physical design of those courts specifically. That's when you talk about gates and locations and all that stuff. But from a parking standpoint, you bring up a very good point. Parking, as you look at pickleball and the number of players. I think in hearing that number at 119 stalls, that's a lot more than the majority of the pickleball complexes that we do. However, I think it's a very good point. You have to have adequate parking for our.
And then we need the windbreaker at the street side of it.
Those are windscreen, stuff like that. Those are all things that get evaluated as you move into specific design
Design
for that,
process.
for
You know,
that.
if I can get a copy of your estimate for that project, that would be nice.
And like I said, there is an estimate in the Mockmuller, but for 6 courts,
We're gonna update that estimate.
and we didn't include.
Copy of it.
So I guess from the hockey perspective then, it's the general framework and I hear all that. At what point would we get to the, like, kind of the details or, you know, the meat on the bone?
So right now, we're looking at an overall plan for our parks for the next 5 years, which is the
Okay.
comprehensive outdoor rec plan. We will be reviewing the Kennedy Park master plan. If Kennedy Park is the interest, or if we're looking at other locations. It would, if we're looking at other locations in Kennedy or Prosper right now, this would be the time to state. You know, if there's another location within the village that you feel would be usable.
We're only looking at Kennedy because of, you know, 100% of our operations right now take place at Green Heck. So we can even use the locker rooms there and have the kids walk.
Yeah, we would discuss that when we get to the Kennedy Park master plan,
Okay.
just because there's probably not any funds available for building a hockey rink as far as grant funds, but there is foundation grants. You know, so when you approach the Green Neck Foundation or the Dudley Foundation or the Community Foundation, those would be the type. And this document does not apply. This is state and federal grants that makes us eligible. So we want the projects in there. We can always amend it if there is something. I mean, literally, we can amend it next month. If there's a project that comes up and we are like, we have to have it in this document to apply for a grant, we can amend the document. So,
Thank
like I
you.
said, this is the overall like 5-year plan for our park development, and it even goes beyond that. It's just, it's only good for 5 years, so we have to do another one in 5 years. Comprehensive plan is every 10 years. So and that is over the whole village.
And that's a 30-year plan.
It's a 30-year plan, but it's only good for 10, so. Yes, we understand the logistics, kind of ridiculous, you do a 5-year plan that's good for 5+ and
They have mortgages like that too.
it's a 100-year plan, okay? No interest.
Did you see Jim's other comments made?
Yes, he also stated, please include irrigation, water and staff time in the current proposed maintenance estimates. So we know that there's gonna be future costs. I mean, anytime you do an improvement, there's gonna be future costs, no matter what it is. So we definitely have to plan for it. So if you could stop sharing your screen, I can bring the agenda back up.
I just want a quick, who made the motion and who seconded? You did? Okay.
Roger.
Roger seconded.
We have a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any more in discussion? Oppose? Motion pass. Discussion and possible action, Kennedy Park Master Plan.
I should ask you to do that, right? There you go, you're back up.
So we're gonna start. Very, very exciting. Okay, so as part of the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, we were, that work that we were doing with you folks, we also looked at overall park master plans for Kennedy Park. When we first sat down and looked at Kennedy, we looked at a series of concepts for each of these parks. We looked at a series of concepts.
Blow it up.
I can zoom in on it. We can get to that point. So the big thing is that as we develop our master plans, we put together a series of concepts. We evaluate those concepts with your folks to see what options we like, what options we don't like. I think there are a lot of specific discussions with regards to baseball and how the site could be maximized to be able to fit as many fields as possible. There was also discussions about how we could potentially redevelop the site instead of blowing everything up, how we could redevelop just the existing fields that are there. We evaluated that option as well. But as we worked through all these processes, we came down to a preferred concept, or what we're calling preferred master plan, that shows maximizing that space to the north end of the park for a lot of the baseball improvements. So what's important to understand is that as we develop these concepts, there's a rhyme and reason behind how we do it, and then how we get to the preferred master plan as part of that. So I think what we can do is walk through each one of these specific elements as part of the plan. I'll start a little bit with the parking. So on the west side of your park, we're showing a parking lot expansion to the existing aquatic center facility parking. The idea here is that we would be providing primary points of access on the north side of the baseball complex and down the core on the south side of the complex as well. We're showing a new playground, a soft surface playground directly to the east of that parking facility, an area for your dumpster enclosures, maintaining the existing building here, and then adding a small maintenance building at this location here as well. We've shown a new soft surface playground space interior inside the existing aquatic facility, and some shade, additional shade structures as part of the aquatic facility as well. What we've done is we've removed, because of the issue with sand within the aquatic facility, we've removed the existing volleyball courts, reconfigured this fence around the east side of the facility, and found a way to accommodate a total of 6 batting cage areas. So I think one of the bigger comments that we had was we need more space for batting cages. We felt that would be a great area to maximize and provide you as many batting cages as possible. As we look at the baseball and little leaguer softball field specifically, we're showing a total of 5 fields on Kennedy at this point. 1 ball field in the east configuration at 315 feet to center, 315 down the lines. We're showing a larger field to the west at 350 feet to center and 315 feet down the lines. The size of these fields were based on input that we received from Sean and others as part of the layout. There's a field, 220-foot field for softball and little league in northern orientation, and a 220-foot softball, baseball field, little league field in the south orientation. Because of the grade relief, we looked at it kind of a cool setting with the grade dropping away here. We could do a sunken field with an elevated plaza area behind it, kind of a cool setting for a ball field. That's a 220-foot competition level field pointing to the south as well. The areas that you'll see with the darker infields, those were planned to be synthetic infields, natural turf outfields. These fields that are showing the skin or the lighter color skin, those would be both natural infields and natural outfields. The core, so we're bringing access in from our parking lot here to the west. Into the core of the plaza, we're showing dugouts for each field, and then a concrete plaza space in the core where you'd have your concession restroom and scorers booth area centrally located to be able to score each one of these fields.
What is 22, please?
22,
On the right.
new volleyball court. Yep. So we've essentially replaced the volleyball court that was inside the aquatic facility, and we've located that here just north of the proposed parking expansion.
Is that something that's used a lot in the at Kennedy Park, or can we put another play structure there so it's on the opposite side of?
So we do have a second play structure at Kennedy already. So it would be in the current play structure area and shelter area, which
More batting cages.
there's
So we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Thank you.
We're gonna get there. So since we're on the concept of batting cages, it was clearly brought to our attention that we need as many as possible. So what we've done and what we have been doing at many facilities is you'll see this keynote 7 here and here. These can double as batting cages. Your bullpens can double as batting cages. We've doubled these here and here. And with those being doubled up like that, we could set those up to be utilized for batting cages as well. So that was our approach to how we could maximize the total number of batting cages as part of the project.
Yeah, we talked about doubling up the bullpens with the batting cages just because it's double use.
Correct.
Because the bullpen gets used, every few innings, but the batting cages could be used, also same, prior to the games, etc.
I would say that's less realistic than optimistic, but certainly possible. Having the batting cages together with that is quite as ideal. Because of the space around it, you quite often use the space around it. That type of thing. You also quite often have a lot of teams together in the same space, and when you have 6 batting cages right next to each other, you're going to force many teams together and try to stand around in that small amount of space to wait for use. But again, first pass, just ideal.
Well, ideally, we're going for 6 to 8 batting cages, which we're showing 12 right now. So I mean, again, it's a plan. So you gotta understand where, some of the things that we may have looked at are not ideal for certain items. I mean, we looked at orientation, but we also looked at function and flow, etc. I know you prefer the orientation of the fields on the other one just because it's ideal for the, the northeast. But as far as, we also had to look at phasing it without and not stopping play. So I mean, the 5th field can be built right now. Number 4 field could be built right now. Number 2, most of it could be built before you even disturb the current Babe Ruth field. So you could continue playing every year because we know it's a multi-phase, multi-year plan. We're not just going to stop baseball for 2 years, because you would not have 600 players again next year. You know what I mean? So we had to look at phasing the project, obviously, for the future, because we know that we want to continue using the park. It'd be great if you could just build it and have it open again the next year, but we know that's not feasible. So just so you understand some of the stuff we were looking at, some of the stuff we talked about, outside of the other meetings that you've attended also, so.
I think as you look at some of the open green space that surrounds the fields, there is potential flexibility there. The one thing we need to take into consideration is how we're gonna deal with stormwater on these projects. Those exterior spaces lend themselves well to be able to meet the state's requirements for stormwater. But I think as you look at, say areas like, maybe a volleyball court isn't as opportunistic as some more batting cages. This is a big, when we look at a park setting, we're getting quite a few batting cages in that location, but there's definitely some flexibility there, so.
Like I said, you could even split it into two and have a green space in between. Because we were talking about just green spaces to warm up, just in general. That's not on a field, You still need to play catch, still do ground balls. You don't have to have a field to do all that stuff.
So, just because I have a vested interest in it, there doesn't appear to be any room to expand the skate park.
Right there.
Got it on there.
Oh, that's the, so you're getting a whole 10 feet, all right?
Well, I think as you look at the scale and what we have to work with in the spot, I think our general, without laying out specific elements to that, we were thinking a flatland area. You're thinking something flat.
Yeah, that is absolutely what my mission is to put a flatland area.
Flat, for lower level skaters, yeah, the idea was that this would be an addition on just a flat hard surface concrete pad.
If you based it on the scale, that's probably about 2,000 square feet.
I'll take it.
Okay. We heard it loud and clear, and we have shown that as part of the skate park.
I'm good.
Yep. We've reconfigured, obviously, we've looked at the parking in this area of the park as well, off Alderson Street. We've expanded this parking along with the playground, redeveloped the playground and the pavilion space directly adjacent to the south end of that parking lot. That parking lot's been updated to roughly 154 spaces. And then that expansion to the parking north of the aquatics facility, that was up to 143 spaces, 143 additional spaces, so.
Jim has another question. Did you read it?
Yeah, I'm not on Zoom anymore.
Will access to the turf fields be restricted? Is the question.
So it won't be restrictive because what we would do is you look at locations for gating. We would have maintenance access out onto the natural turf areas for your mowing and stuff of that nature. As you look at what you can put on synthetic turf, you can use that surface as much as possible based on the fact that it's not no maintenance, it's very low maintenance, but the number of days a year that you're gonna be able to play on that facility will far surpass what you can do on a natural turf field. I wouldn't call it restrictive other than how the municipality deals with allowing community access to it. Once it is synthetic, you want to evaluate how and who you're letting on that facility. So.
I guess I had two questions. So in 28 and 29 at the very bottom corner, 28's the existing bathroom there. And it looks like we got a new restroom facility there. Would we just remove 28 then if 29 gets built?
So we had a smaller, I assume this is our smaller pavilion.
Yeah.
And this would be obviously we're showing
One.
layout for a new building with an overhang.
Yeah.
We certainly could remove that.
And then would that be a spot to try to fit the volleyball in, so it's closer to the pavilion and?
Right here.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Is there a steep angle there? Is that?
There's some grade dropping away. Yeah. You can see the proposed the proposed
Yeah, the contour
contours here. So you can see that this is where we're dropping down and into the unnavigable waterway or technically waterway. But yeah, we could certainly look at relocating our volleyball courts here in this location. And then opening up some space here, the north end of the parking for some batting cages.
Or batting cages.
Or batting cages. We'll do whatever you guys tell us.
I just wanted to get a green space.
Green space, green space.
That's a good
open
idea.
green space. We certainly could show that.
Yeah.
I like that, Michael. We can make that revision.
Alright.
Alright.
And then there was a follow-up question about, I guess address to the park committee, I guess maybe just think about what the access policy should be. For instance, Steam Stadium isn't available to the public at DC Everest. What does the committee maybe think should be the access restrictions for the, I guess, turf fields? That's from Jim.
I think we talked about the grass fields being open to the public and then the turf being closed off, is that correct?
Yeah, we talked about, obviously, it's a park, we want it open to the public. You know, but it's a huge investment to do synthetic. And it's a huge replacement cost. Because Steam, they estimate is 10 years, about 10 years on 12 years. And so you're talking, I mean, I don't even know what the cost is right now. I mean, what they just spent to, you know, put new turf there, but I'm sure it's $1 million plus, you know, so.
Yeah, to replace the fields, the initial investment with all the drainage system and the stone is one thing, but to replace like a full-size football field, you're around 400 to 500,000 just to replace it. Yeah. It's 80 to 90,000 square feet. These infields are a little small.
Like I said, it's minimal maintenance. Still have to,
Low maintenance.
you still have to add infill material to it and groom them. So it's not maintenance free, but ideally it would be, you can play on it anytime. If it's raining, you can play on it pretty much. You know, the whole field's still natural turf though. So, I mean, obviously if we had the rain we had last Thursday, you probably wouldn't be playing anywhere, but cause everything was saturated in standing water, but it is all, everything's future costs. I mean, we know that no matter what is decided, as far as moving forward, actually building, there's gonna be future maintenance costs that we have to plan for. It's not just the initial investment, you know, it's the future costs for maintenance, etc.
As part of all these fields too, we would recommend irrigation and under drain for all the natural turf areas outside of the infields. So, yep, irrigated and under drain. There is stadium lighting shown as part of each one of the facilities, whether it's a smaller field, the 4-pole system, or the larger poles with a 6-pole system. I think you have some unique opportunities here to utilize at the core of the complex. We can utilize probably some of the same poles and backlight off them like we talked about, but the stadium lighting is a big investment as part of this type of facility. But as you look at potential for hosting events and playing later into the evening, we're showing stadium lighting at this point for all the fields. So I think we touched on the playground and pavilion upgrades, talked about the parking additions, talked about some upgrades to or revisions to the aquatic facility. An area that we were specifically asked to evaluate was the northwest corner of the park, redevelopment of the existing maintenance facilities for storage to be able to support the park and your parks department. But another thing was looking at how we can accommodate some space for T-ball. At this point, this is where you're showing the footprint for hockey, a hockey facility. At this point, we left it as open green space to be able to accommodate some areas for 4 T-ball fields, separate from the primary baseball complex. I guess the one thing.
Ross, while you're on that corner.
Yeah.
So I guess Ryan, to your question for hockey, I guess you'd be envisioning having a shelter roof over the top of that?
Yeah, like the concrete pad and then shelter roof. And then from, April to October, then it's a roller ball.
Correct. So that changes, what that does is that changes this area from natural grass to concrete. We would still have areas for 2 T-ball fields here. The one thing I would say is if the village was ever interested, and this is an option, we could evaluate relocating 2 of these T-ball fields and look elsewhere on the site to where we could potentially find some space for those. But as of right now, this is where they were showing the open green space for those. I think we can certainly be creative, look at some other locations. But then we would have separated use for the 4 T-ball fields. But yes, that was the general location where we were maintaining kind of green space to be flooded for hockey in the winter. But I think that's all about where else we could put them on the site and how we could potentially accommodate that.
Would the area where the trash enclosure is, like if that got redesigned.
Yep. I think that could work very well, actually. If we slid this playground north,
Yeah.
opened up this area, shifted the shed over, we could definitely accommodate 2 of these T-ball fields down in this location. Then they're actually, to your point, Michael, I think we're actually locating them decently close to one another. We're not completely separating use on different ends of the park.
Yeah.
And then you could certainly look at having a concrete slab with an overhead roof structure in this location. And we could certainly look at that. The village feels it's appropriate.
And then those T-ball areas would still be open green space for warming up and all the other flying kites, whatever else people wanna do.
Like, that's right.
Where is the closest bathroom to those T-balls?
So I don't- I mean, this is a big picture master plan. Obviously, this is primarily village programming for their equipment and whatever Park and Rec's gonna be doing. But we would have opportunities for restrooms here. I don't know if you'd be bringing people into aquatics for restrooms, but
Well, number 28 is a restroom also.
28 is a restroom.
That's the current restroom.
And you keep
It
that.
would be upgraded.
Yeah.
Big
So we talked about upgrading the
that's right.
restrooms in the shelter facilities. So it's still there in the, basically the current location,
Yep.
but just upgrading it. So it would still be in a pretty close proximity when it considers only, 300 feet away.
When
It's
you,
not like Mockmiller.
excuse me, when you say upgraded, bathrooms, do you mean more stalls or just?
New facility.
It's all.
It would be a new facility and we would decide on, right now that facility is rated at 400 per hour. Which I couldn't even imagine running 400 people through it in an hour, but that's what it's rated based on the manufacturer. And that's what most of our facilities are. It's called the RR 400, so it's 400 per hour. We have a RR 200 at Sand Hill, which is a single stall. Really, but that's what they rated at 400 per hour through 2 stall women's and 1 stall and 1 urinal on the men's side. And you could probably do it, it's just the supplies you run out of. It's not necessarily you can't run it through the facility, it's just the supplies you have to go through to service that many people.
So it'll be renovated or all new?
It would more than likely be all new. Cause it is a concrete prefab building, so we wouldn't really renovate it.
Yeah, and then I guess the building number 13 up there, I mean, it currently is, I guess, it'd be what, part warming house, part everything else, so I guess if there is a need for bathrooms up there, especially if there was a permanent hockey use, I guess I could.
There would be restrooms inside that
Yeah.
facility, I would
you
assume.
could easily accommodate.
So we're talking, I think it was 14 to 1600 square feet, something like that. Remember right?
4,800 says.
Oh, yeah, that's bigger than that.
4,800 square feet.
Are you gonna address Jim's other question?
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the PDF version right now on my own computer.
So,
You know what you have for the ring? 15?
It looks like it's a 200 by 85, like a,
Okay.
Full size.
our current one is a 200 by 90.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a Kennedy. And then I know that you can, NHL is 200 by 100, I believe.
That's Olympic.
Oh, Olympic.
Yeah,
there you go.
we were
Yeah,
just-
NHL is 200 by 85.
We were in St. Thomas this weekend, and we have a big sheet.
Yeah.
So Jim's asking a question, which is, will there be user fees for teams, leagues to offset the ongoing costs, cover costs of turf, lighting, etc. I know that. And just asking, how do other parks and other municipalities handle this? Is it free to host a tournament or at other locations? So we know that, there would be, obviously, if the user groups want to get involved, there would be fundraising on their portion that we've discussed that they would be willing to do and to help with some of the costs for, construction. I don't think we've really talked about future. I know that youth baseball has invested a ton in Kennedy Park over the years. So, I mean, it's definitely something where we would bring it up. and discuss it. You know, we have started, like with Memorial County, I mean, like a future maintenance agreement, which we discussed, you know, as far as what those costs would be and what their buy-in to future maintenance would be. Because, you know, as we know, board members change, families move on, and then just to be tied to that future maintenance as far as a commitment, as far as, you know, what each one does. It's something similar to what was there a disc golf enthusiast brought in a proposal this spring for the future of VL Banks disc golf. So they drafted a plan, future part for the village, future part for them, their commitment, our commitment, et cetera, and how we could move forward with improvements, et cetera, maintenance like that. So I think that's, you're gonna see a lot more of that, just because the groups ask a lot more of us, and well, we definitely should be asking for something from them too, obviously, if they're asking and needing more. And we know that that is. DC Everest Youth Baseball has grown and actually taken stuff away from us, which has helped us. But it caused us to do less than we did previously. With your growth and success, it helps us also. Improves our facilities, not just for you to use, but for others to use also.
Any other recommendations?
I think there's just a couple quick other things. So we looked specifically at utilities along Newbert. The idea would be to bring sanitary and water into the central concession restroom building off of Newbert through this corridor here. The other thing to address is that we are showing as part of our dugouts, whether masonry and prefabricated metal, there's different options you can do there. But we are showing one storage addition onto those dugouts for the larger fields, 350 and the 315. So
it'd be a joint storage, so it could be used at two fields.
Correct.
Basically.
You could certainly, you're right, you'd be able to use this storage for this facility and this facility and vice versa. Here and here.
One proposed idea with the idea of having concrete with a shelter overhang. That could be a multi-use for during tournament baseball time. That could be a place for teams to shelter from the sun. We'll have the machine up there. Try to incorporate that idea of being multi-use during extra spot for teams to go.
Any other questions on the Kennedy Park preferred master plan? Prohaska.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and I talked to you about today, there's, you could, you know.
Well, they're combined, Kennedy and Prohaska.
Well, you don't have to, because they're separate on the agenda. So if you wanted to approve the Kennedy Park master plan with suggested changes, you could. You don't need to, because there's no force to do it right now. You don't have to do it. They can make the changes, I can bring it back in November, and you can approve it at that point, and then take it to the board in December. So you don't have to, just telling you that they are listed separately on the agenda. Both the RFCs were drafted as one, because I'm like, why draft two for the same exact thing, basically? So it's entirely up to you if you want to make a motion on it.
So just discussion wise, I'm inclined to want to move forward with this.
Right.
Just because of the length of the budgetary process, looking ahead, you know, I mean, in an ideal world, if Jamie wrote you a check, how long does all of this construction take?
To build this facility in the summer would be a big undertaking. As you look at funding, if all the money was there.
Jamie doing it.
Jamie writes that
I
big
can
check.
write a quick check.
I think the majority of this project could be constructed in one summer. That being said, as you look at how a field,
Going to be,
it's a growing organism, turf is, my biggest thing is that you have to give those fields long enough to mature. So I would never promise those fields to somebody without having enough time for that turf to establish. Most likely what's gonna end up happening with all the utilities and everything that's gonna go into this park, you're gonna need to wait to get on that grass until maybe later on to the summer of the following year. or maybe even a little longer. It all depends on, are they sodded, are they seeded, and what path to go with that. But when you look at park projects like this, you could get the majority of the work done in one summer. But that would be a big effort for several contractors to go through that process.
And you would start on the softball field area.
It-
My understanding.
It depends, and then you gotta look at, okay, say there's a scenario where you don't have all the money, then you need to look at how you would potentially phase a project of this nature. So, and like Sean said, what was important is we looked at the configuration of the fields and how we could potentially conserve areas of the park to be able to continue to utilize while you're building other parks. That played in partially as to why it's laid out the way it is. But as you look at where you would start a project, where you'd start building a project, it's gonna be right in the core of this, bringing in new utilities, putting in all your storm sewer and
And there's at least 2 fields that could be built right now,
So,
because there's the area there.
okay,
It doesn't impede on the 3 other fields that are there.
I'd like to move that we recommend approving the Kennedy master plan with changes. Second.
All right, we have a first by Covino, a second by Easter. Motion's been approved. All in favor, say aye. Any more discussion? Oppose? Motion passed.
Prohaska.
Number 9,
This is a little bit, this is a completely different type of park. When I had an opportunity to walk this park with Rebecca and Sean, I was amazed at the natural setting of it. You guys have a real gem here. And I think the overall goal as part of the master plan for Prohaska was to conserve the natural identity of this park as much as possible. The first thing I'll talk a little bit about, we're showing a pipeline easement that runs right through the northern part of your site here. We wanted to clearly show that on the master plan, so we all understood exactly what that was and where that is. The second most important thing, when I went on site with Rebecca to observe how you guys were accessing it currently, I'm thinking to myself, we're bringing everybody in to this core space here. Why wouldn't we take access off of Weston Avenue? So as we looked at the availability for utilities and also direct access point, we looked at Weston Ave as being the primary part of access into the new improvements as part of Prohaska. We're showing directly off of Weston, separate parking specifically for, whether it be separated for disc golf specifically. We showed a separate parking lot here on the east side of the primary drive coming in. I have to look and see, we're showing roughly 24 spaces in this location here. As you come in, this would be a 2-way drive. As you come into the core of the park, we're showing a new pavilion here, keynote 4. This would support specifically, I think we were thinking this would just be an overhead pavilion structure. Sean, I believe that was just gonna be overhead, correct?
It's the restrooms.
We have restrooms here.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, that's right. So we were doing separate.
We're moving the restrooms further south, just partially due to access to the sewer and water, but also to allow access from both the shelter pavilion area, the campground, and the disc golfers.
So we have a separate restroom building here. 2-way traffic coming in to a parking facility here, directly adjacent to our soft surface playground, and then overhead pavilion and restroom area here as well. From an access standpoint, we looked at providing maintenance access and a walking path all the way through and around the existing wooded area here. One of the primary things that we were asked to look at was an area for camping. At this point, we were showing in terms of how people would come in, they'd come in and then back in to each one of these spaces. But I think one of the big things is we wanted to look at camping specifically. I forget, we have 12 RV campsites located here in the center of this facility. The other option we have too is we could bring folks in, provide a turning movement for them here to turn around and then back into their spaces.
is there a waste disposal area for that camping?
No, it's a great question. We never specifically talked.
Yeah,
about
we didn't
waste
really talk about it. Well,
I don't want.
we actually talked about having the sewer and water at each site,
Yeah, okay.
not like a waste disposal station.
Right.
This way you can hook right up once you put your camper or RV there. So you'd have sooner or at each site.
So each site would have it.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I could be totally off basis, but nobody wants to go into the dump site anymore.
Oh.
If they don't have to.
As you come in, yeah, so we identified the need for our RV campsite locations here. The one important thing I think is obviously we have the water resource here that can be utilized, but as you looked at the location and views coming down from this area, this being one of the highest points of the site, this provides a beautiful overview point for the existing pond area. But this is where we're thinking about potentially putting a gazebo as well at this location. And then providing lake access here with Keynote 9 down to a dock structure, which is a really cool element. It's part of the plan. The yellow lines that you're seeing running all throughout the park are proposed proposed trail system. As we looked at routing those trails, number one, we looked at the existing trails that are there currently. And then obviously with wetlands and things of that nature, how these could work with the existing conditions on the site, like the wetlands and wetland indicators. So there is a litany of parks encompassing the whole park and through the center of the park as well. Another item that we were asked to accommodate was a disc golf course. So at this point, we're showing 18 disc golf holes located here on the southeast corner of the park. 18 holes there. Rebecca, what else didn't I hit on? Okay. But just showing that 18 holes.
And the disc golf was added partially just due to, the challenges we have with the Yellow Banks course. And we talked about, where this one would be more of a beginner course because you don't have the water to deal with, the thorny brush to deal with. Some of the challenges that prevent amateur disc golfers from playing Yellow Banks because it is so difficult. Where here you're mostly in a hardwoods highland area. There is obviously wetlands, as you see the contours there too, but it's not super wet area compared to like the north end of the property. And like I said, a little less challenging, more friendly. And then once you step up to a course which is full 18 holes, it accommodates, tournament play, etc. I mean, they do tournaments at our current course, but it adds some availability for bringing more people to the area also. Question back here, Gene?
Yeah.
How many access to that park?
How many accesses? Right now, they're showing just the one off Weston Avenue and then a service access for staff on the west side.
I think we need more than one access.
And part of the, reason for access off Weston Avenue was emergency services, more direct access, just a little more. I mean, we don't anticipate it being we're gonna have 400 people here this weekend where,
You never know who's gonna get hurt back there.
So you don't think a service access and a public access is enough? 2 accesses?
I think you need at least 2 access because.
There are two.
There are 2 points of access.
There are 2.
Yeah, so there's a point of access here at Keynote 19 off of Ryan. That would allow a wide enough road profile to be able to get an emergency vehicle in here. And then there's a second point of access here, which is a 2-way drive off of Weston Avenue. I think the one thing that you need to consider, I think this works well. I think it alleviates your concern with getting emergency vehicles in. The one thing you need to think about is the existing conditions or the natural features on this site. We can't bring anybody in. We can't really bring anybody in from here up north. To bring somebody all the way through here, this is all existing wetlands as well. So as you look at the potential and the best locations for access, I do believe it's off of Weston. And with those 2 points of access, I think you'd be more than covered.
Potential.
But that's a very good point. But they would be able to use this. Yeah. And the way this starts to work in terms of having a turnaround area here, we can easily get people in to back in. and then easily get people back out the two-way drive. Yep.
Excuse me, open for ideas for the park and maybe some like stationary bags or,
Bag toss?
yeah, bag toss.
Where do you want that?
Yeah.
Let's do it. We just did. I enjoy, yeah, it's a very cool addition that's become.
Yeah, because if you're gonna have a gazebo, I mean, maybe you might bring in some weddings, you know, things like that, but. And if they're stationary, then the grants fund them, correct? Our
No,
funds will
No,
grant-
not necessarily.
Or we use CIP.
No, not necessarily because it's stationary, but like I said, they cover more of passive recreation. Exactly. So trails, park development, which could be natural areas, et cetera. They just did us some permanent bags.
Yep.
Recently, right? You just
Yep.
told us that you did.
Yeah. Emerson Park,
Um,
Stevens Point.
Also, to go hand in hand with campsites, there's a lot of gaga pits with, you know. Yeah, I know, but it's popular.
Gaga's one of those things that's gonna die.
Campsites equal.
I think Gaga's gonna die. It's one of those where, yeah, I think it's gonna die. I think Gaga's gonna die eventually, kind of like horseshoes. Like
It's not a
horseshoes
huge
did.
investment, it's just a corral.
And you want,
Words.
and ideally you'd want these located by the campsite.
She was thinking like Gaga at all of our parks, right? Was that your comment?
Right.
Well, not so much, no, I just here because it goes hand in hand.
It's the master plan.
Just ideas, but if.
They are relatively
you need to have-
inexpensive.
You need to have some go-to things for the kids, you know, besides trails and a park.
We talked about, you know, like this being like a support park for like tournaments at Kennedy, et cetera, like you said, you know, we're
This is passive recreation.
massive recreation, but, you know, going to Weston for a tournament this weekend, how many of those campsites are gonna be used by people camping there that are playing in the tournament? Because we played in tournaments in Minocqua and 3 or 4 of our families on our team camp there, you know, because they're not gonna get a hotel room, et cetera. So I think there's some, you know, teams that actually plan where they're going, so there is camping available, you know, nearby. We talked about, it was Plover, right? Was it Plover? Or they have a second, no, it was somewhere else where they have Anago.
Anago.
Anago has a section in town where they, for baseball tournaments, where they allow camping during tournament weekends. And it's kind of a weird area based on what you showed me.
Yeah, you're in someone's backyard.
They found a way to.
Speaking of camping though, are there tent sites?
And there's a comment we got here, also I got 10 sites in Culver available. Or is, you know, one of those things where as long as it's available on Weston Avenue, it's one thing that you could definitely provide. And it's proposed as, you know, like RV sites, but what type of surfaces? It's not blacktop necessarily, it's dirt. You know, probably accommodate a tent regardless also, as we know, the tent sites are still a road base or dirt parking spot, and then there's a little grass over here where you can put a tent in. So, I mean, I don't think we're gonna be, you know, a state park for camping. It's more of a urban camping. I could be totally wrong, but I was at Marathon Park last week and there was somebody camping there. And I was like, wow, this weather is nasty. I didn't even want to get out of the truck and they're camping there. I was like, and they're doing it at Marathon Park.
I just don't understand that.
So I know you thought I was nuts when I brought it up at the last meeting, and then you guys were all on board after that, weren't you? Thinking this could be a great feature for
It really
the
could be,
area.
I agree. I would never do it in the middle of town, in the middle of Weston, but
But this feels like you're not in the middle of town.
exactly. I
No,
could
yeah.
feel for it here.
So
The hotel is built across the road.
so will we make a spot for an open field for tent camping?
Like an open field? No, I think those sites would be dedicated to be used either way.
Oh, I see.
Because we know we want to preserve like the natural area where number 18 is. I know everybody loves the black walnut trees. I do. I comment on it every time we talk about that section. I don't want to see them get cut down.
Those are being maintained.
They're just beautiful.
Yep.
They actually, we talked about it and moving the camping to the south side versus where I threw it in on the north side, just because I'm not the planner, so. You know, but we do have a big general area there, to the south of the service entry road or the camping road, where there could be, it could be completely reconfigured. It is just a general area right now. So,
I think the last thing I would do is cut open a bunch of green space for camping. You can nestle little sites. It all depends how you want to use this park too. So as you look at programming it for camping, you know, as we look at security and all of those important things, you know, it's a fine balance. But I would hesitate to cut anything down, but actually just integrate a couple little camping sites throughout that area. Preserve the existing.
Right. Also with the fishing pier, what do you have going on for a dock there? Is like, how big is that? What?
So this footprint, I think a good example of this, if you guys ever go through Plover, Lake Pacwa Park. These are, they're concrete abutments that get built into the edge of the water. And then they are removable pier structures. So as the water level raises and lowers, the piers are able to move, but they're a prefabricated polymer type plastic structure. And we've done both fishing piers with railings. We've also done accessible kayak launches. There's a bunch of different options, but this is very comparable to what you would see at like a Lake Pacwa Park for the accessible fishing.
yeah, if you want other examples, there's one handicap accessible one at DCR's Park in Wausau. They also have one up on Wisconsin River by River Life. And they vary on the design, etc. But the one at DCR's Park is quite nice. Like you said, it's basically on a hinge. So the water levels go up and down. It's got a railing, it's got pole holders. So it's fully handicap accessible. Lake Pack was extreme also because they also have the big concrete, you know, that goes out to the lake, etc. When I said it, I'm like, well, that not quite like that.
That's actually the kayak launch. Oh yeah, you're talking about the memorial itself. We actually did cast plank systems to be able to walk your kayaks down there as well. So I thought that's what you're referring to.
No, the
Yeah,
big
no.
concrete.
It's not gonna be that big. That's the Korean War
Also.
Memorial.
Oh, that's a big.
No.
So,
So there'll be an area for a kayak launch?
This could double as both a pier and an accessible kayak launch if you wanted to. I think
might probably go take the tour with me before you think somebody's actually gonna kayak it.
that's
Those bodies of water are not that big, really.
no. From a scale standpoint, the other thing Sean's making a very good point is that as you look at recreating here, you know, I don't know if you'd want to do a ton of kayaking in there, but
It might take you a minute to paddle around the whole thing. It's really not that big.
and these are
Possibly do one more fishing pier or two, because you know, you get a couple kids with poles on one pier.
yeah, so we actually showed some other locations here. We have a small pier here and here as well for access for fishing in these areas as well. Got another
But
one
the
over here.
one,
Those are just little platforms.
number 11 is the 14-foot pond.
Right.
It is the deepest and largest one. So the mostly. Probably the one that would be the most successful for fishing on. They all actually do have fish in them though. So.
How many hockey rinks can you put on this pond?
This is our
You
This
might
is our
get-
passive
you might get
recreation
one-
part.
You might get one on there.
I guess my suggestion, maybe put one more fishing pier in that area, so it,
Yeah, there is another one up in the,
yeah, let's do that.
no, there's three actually on that pond. There's one up in the northeast corner also.
Yeah, one, two, these would be like platforms, not a full dock structure, but if you'd like us to show another dock structure.
She wants to come and remove them every winter, every fall.
They come out pretty easily.
That's not a
Jamie's in
big deal.
needed service.
It is,
That's-
it's all good.
Probably,
Uh-huh. It's on record.
do that. Any other questions on? Thoughts?
So again, same as Kennedy, it's entirely up to you. If you wanna make a motion and move it forward
I'll make the motion. We'll move it
with
forward.
changes.
Yeah. I'll second.
We have a first by Easter, second by Corvino. Approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any more in discussion? Opposed, motion passed.
We take a couple minutes break. Oh, and a half. That's gonna be a long one, so if anybody else.
Yes.
We've never taken a break. Well, do I need to say anything?
Well, I'm just suggesting it because. I appreciate it. I think our proposals are huge.
I just know you
That's gonna be a great-
guys. I know what you're trying-
Let them exit.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. We'll get. Yeah.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
For pickleball, you want it 16. Yeah.
You really won't let me do that.
Yeah, and your estimate's at 6. and I'm
I know,
like-
that's where I think I forgot to change.
Yeah.
I think it should be.
Because it's for the bounce.
Yeah,
Good night.
I think everything's closed except for.
I plan
All right, yeah. And I have 2 other.
So I'll make it
These three
16.
are up. We'll be in touch, we'll be in touch with you guys. I don't know.
I don't even know if
You
that's.
know,
Or is it just the front of
Have a
it?
need to change it, but if somebody's.
I guess, so I didn't know if I was.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah, I just wanted, you know.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I'll
perfect.
send.
Perfect.
you
Give me a
know,
call.
All right. All right.
Real quick, yeah, it was nice meeting you. Thanks for helping. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I guess.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe going back to it more, and there's a lot going on. And I just, I mean, I feel like.
Meeting is over.
We have a slight recess.
Just
Park
the,
playground proposals.
Sean thinks that's gonna be a long one.
How long if he makes it long?
Well, we haven't discussed it at all yet, so
This thing.
we got 3 proposals and gotta go through all of them.
Yeah.
Save money. Right.
No.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
No, because we now have contract, non-doc contract with Humane Society.
Yeah.
And Rachel, who's
Katrina,
Ma'am.
deputy
I think
clerk,
next spring I
assistant
contacted John, I think he's gonna bring
So,
some.
Is that her
I mean-
title, Michael?
Yeah.
Rachel, is that?
Awesome.
is
Another one.
deputy
He's gonna
clerk
teach me.
assistant, or-
He's,
Oh.
yeah, administrative assistant slash
He
deputy
is a
clerk or
wealth of
something.
information.
Thank you.
Just-
So something like that.
He's
Yeah,
and even
Yeah, okay, good.
So
Yeah.
she's
Prepping
all on board.
stuff, he's
Okay.
taught Corey so much
She's
stuff. He
savvy,
just,
Cool.
you know, with
Have him
websites
come every
and
day.
online like you
yeah,
are.
he just
So
knows so much.
you guys could work
Well,
together on that.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I'll even stuff, it's just stuff that people don't
No,
know a lot
don't
about.
need you.
No, I'll just be
Yeah.
quiet. I just
Okay.
wanna
Wealth
watch.
of
Although you
information.
have
You can
free
tell me
time.
it'd be
You
fine.
have a new business on your truck.
I know it, and I
Yeah.
need help with tech savvy stuff.
Oh, okay,
I have-
that's,
I have
that's totally,
amazing-
yeah, I'll absolutely help you with
I have
that.
amazing Google
Yeah.
reviews. I can tell you
Totally
that,
don't
but-
want you to get swamped with more meetings.
No, I missed 2 lockouts because I'm here, so that's $200 a month.
Yeah. And did you hear
Did you
Katrina's
ever
gonna
have
let us
issues
build a
with
band
bears
shell by our
attacking the
house?
beehives?
What?
Yeah, Katrina's gonna let us build a band shell right by your house.
Perfect.
The band shell that isn't on Kennedy Park is gonna go by,
Yes, right,
right,
where the disc golf is.
yeah,
Right now.
that's exactly. Yeah, I'm just saying.
I thought the pickleball is going next to the horses.
Yeah, that would be cool. I just, yeah. Every time I think of the pickleball thing being next to the dog
Whatever.
park,
We'll just
like,
put some
my
walking
dog
trails
would
through there.
tear
too.
that fence down. Absolutely tear that fence down.
Yeah, no, we have not had We haven't had issues
Yeah.
with bear in,
Right.
Shelter
Yeah.
area.
well, ever
Appreciate
since
it,
John's
whatever,
been there.
Yeah.
Then we
Um,
could have events there, like the.
Yeah.
But
licensing
he said,
or, like the fixes in, or,
skunks
you know,
and
that would
raccoons
all,
Yeah,
need to
that
be
would all
also.
benefit. the
Well, I got
community.
raccoon issues.
I guess so,
Humane
he said the
Society,
skunks and
and
raccoons will
then
just
no one
Yeah.
has
sit
to
there and pull the
come
bees
up
out
where
and
money's
shove them in their
right,
mouths.
yeah, that's
I
a
would
good
not
idea,
expect
yeah.
that.
clear.
Never would have guessed it. So yeah, he's had a harder problem with the skunks by our house than
No.
Yes.
anything else, so we haven't
There you
seen
go.
bear in a,
General.
I got a little one that
Goes in
decided
general
to,
fund.
It was going in the
in the
general
residency
fund
and
for
hang around my house, so.
yeah, right?
Restroom and.
We've had,
Right here in that, yeah.
so
So it's
Corey was
fixed now.
hunting the other
Yeah.
day and little bobcat comes popping through.
It was a lot of
That's
work.
always exciting.
Yeah.
You don't see them in the wild that often.
No, I was like, oh, well. Right, and he happened to be sitting on the ground that day too. So he was super excited about that. But
But it
we,
seems like we have.
But now I can go to
animals,
the gym and not be.
they're all going.
we do, absolutely, absolutely, things that you
Ladies.
never thought were out there.
feeding
I had a red-tailed hawk attack my chickens the other
Yes.
week.
Yes, we've had lots of issues
In the trailer.
with hawks over the years, eagles.
Eagles, they kind of swoop over, but they stay more on the river. I was like,
We've had them nesting across the river and they, I don't know, it's just like a straight flight path or something, I don't know. But yeah,
do you want any roosters?
no,
Being ran over.
no, but I wondered, so I've been watching on the next door
So.
app, you know, the people
It's been
talking about the
addressed,
chickens
you
allowed, and I've been very curious, what are those people doing?
You can't, you're in village.
When you, well,
We're working on the years. you
he's,
know, whether
no, he
it's
doesn't bother anybody.
or 2-year.
Cause of smoke cords or what?
Some are really quiet.
He just doesn't, this particular one just is not very noisy most of the time.
Like the one I gave Stacy, he doesn't crow at all.
Or not doing that.
And he's super nice, I mean, he's just
That
he's
money
just
will come back.
blends in with the rest of the flock. We've had other ones that we've had to kill because they're like vicious, like come out the back door with a bat.
Yeah.
Because he's running at you.
Don't breed one, they.
I got
breed
one like that,
multiple.
but he's my old one, he protects everybody. He knows if I whack him, usually with the scooper, then he's good for.
It's been defunded for years.
Anything's new,
Breeding
animals,
animals.
big circle, yeah.
Yeah.
Big circle
For
around.
dogs, yes, for-
Those claws hurt when they text you.
Which.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're vicious
Yeah.
sometimes.
Domesticated. Rabbits or ferrets or.
Yeah, I should have Corey send you the video, so the other night when he was hunting, he recorded some animal making noise in the woods, we cannot figure out what it is. We thought, because it had flooded so much last week, the land where he hunts was flooded, and so there's ducks and stuff in there.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe it was migratory birds or something moving through, and we're just not sure. One guy thinks it's young coyotes.
Right next to the fence.
Well, maybe,
That's
but
awesome. Kids,
No,
bring your
it
fishing pole.
makes such strange
have a
noises.
birthday
I'll have him
party
send you the
gazebo.
video, cause
And play
I'm ready to
bags
like
and
put it out on
back.
Facebook, like,
And I don't
somebody
have to
tell
do
me
that.
what this is,
Cause
cause
it's a young bobcat.
Oh, yeah.
who knows, maybe,
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know what kind
Have
of.
you ever heard one in like the springtime when it's their mating?
No.
It sounds like a high-pitched woman screaming.
Real, I've thought about it.
It's
but
like
I want to
eerie.
build a high roller.
Interesting.
Oh, yes,
I'd have to
yeah.
You in with me?
Google
Yeah,
that.
You could build it
It's
across the
scary.
street from where it used to be, that land
Yeah,
just south of
sometimes it
Aldi's.
sounds like
my
it might be more
first
than one
fence.
animal for that matter.
Yeah.
The corner by the
Sometimes it sounds.
No,
like
see, we went out
in
to
a
the
rose, like a
in
paper
tropical
rose.
forest with monkeys,
So we went outside,
kind
I-
of screaming
I-
like just.
yeah. Sean
I've had,
Drake and Kelly
Woodchucks
Cohen,
make some pretty weird
me and
noises.
Orly Likes,
Hmm.
and Jeff Garris and
definitely
Holly
have-
Hoagland.
Am I supposed to know?
Might
No,
be,
you're not, but I'm just proving
too.
that it was a big deal for me.
They just.
And the cool thing
pop up
was Orly Likes' dad
everywhere.
is Bob Likes, the
Everywhere.
karate guy.
Mhm.
I was scared
Yeah.
about that for the
Then
rest of
pink
my
and
life,
otter and-
till Bob passed away. I'm like, oh,
I
thank
mean,
God.
you name it,
We're not
we
gonna
have
find
it.
out.
Yeah, and yes,
Because of the
absolutely. The more
kids?
animals you
Yeah.
put out there, the more
I was in sixth grade, so
things
you
you
know,
attract.
Oh my
That's kind of
gosh.
why our
December
cows
18,
have horns.
19, whatever,
You know,
sixth
so
grade
they're-
was.
And the
Yeah.
horses are big enough that something's gotta be really
Nope.
hungry for me.
No, that was, yeah, that was
I think
much
it would be
later.
a bear maybe that could attack them.
Yeah, you'd have to be, I mean, really
That's way too
desperate,
much time.
right? Right. One of my horses several years ago there was a mangy coyote roaming through the neighborhood and I don't know
yeah,
if he
but you
actually
like skating.
Oh, yeah.
I
was,
I
thought
miss
he
it. I
could do
think it would
something with
be-
the horses
In
or just
college, it was
happened
still
to go
there.
through their pasture and it was,
And
Yeah.
then
really bad timing for him
Is
because he
that,
got trampled.
Yeah, in college,
He
we would
was
come, Jackie and I
flattened
would
to
come
the
back,
ground.
and we'd still go skating
Oh, they were just
with all
protecting
of her
themselves.
little
They
cousins
were,
and
it's like,
stuff.
I can't imagine
Yeah,
that
it
it
was super fun.
thought it was actually going to
Okay.
What is it
do
called?
something to them. I think it was
It's in
just
what,
going through their
Rapids?
Yeah.
pasture, just.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I think it's in Rapids.
There's probably one in Eau Claire too.
The wolf, where they have to hunt as a pack, all right?
Maybe there's
Especially
two of
larger
them.
animals,
Yeah,
or not.
No,
But
I think
insurance
coyotes
is
are pretty
probably
independent.
a lot.
Yeah.
yeah, I know for a while, the roller derby girls tried to put together an idea of raising
We could
money
add
to
that to the.
to build a. You know, they'd skate on the hockey slab.
Is that where they skate now?
Now they skate at Memorial.
We can use the ice rink.
I don't know where
It's a
they do it at
cemented
Memorial.
slab.
Right, the Sisters of
Hey, bring
Skate
it
will
somewhere.
absolutely do that. Yep.
We have one that skated around. our park.
No,
That's all I
there's a
saw.
flatland version
girl.
of roller.
The one guy jogged and she
Because finding
skated.
the ankle tracks, I imagine it's hard,
Sure.
you know, so.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Maybe that's the next sport I should take up.
I still rollerblade. That's why I'm glad that trail is connecting now, right? Like,
It's in my
that's where it's
brush now.
connected by Quick Trip, right?
What's that?
And, Mesker, the trail ends at Quick Trip. And then it's gonna be extended, is that?
We talking about Mountain Bay Trail.
Yeah, the Mountain Bay Trail, is that?
So right now, it actually goes all the way to, technically it goes to right to the trailhead at the end of Municipal Street. Right where our treatment plant is, and there's the Mountain Bay Trailheads back there. So it actually goes beyond, Mesker. Yeah, Mesker.
Yeah.
No, Fuller.
Cause if I go down
Goes,
past Mountain Bay School and then to Quick Trip, it ends right there.
She's
Talking about the
roller
blacktop.
talking
blade.
about the blacktop path, that goes to J, goes to Highway J.
It goes between Ryan and Jay.
Goes from Ryan and J.
Between Ryan
Yeah.
and Jay.
So one of the proposals was to continue a blacktop path from Ryan, west, all the way to here,
Yes.
Camp Phillips.
Is that happening?
Well, technically, it's not a village project because
Right, okay.
so the railroad corridor is like Mountain Bay is a state trail.
Right.
And the Marathon County section is maintained by Marathon County for the state. And then the railroad right away to the west, I think is now in the county's hands. So technically it would be their project. They just want it in our corp, which we have it in our corp, to help support, so just help support the grant application. So if we have it in our plan, then it can help support their grant application. And so, because we have the Mountain Bay and then we have a blacktop path. They're two different things. The Mountain Bay is the dirt portion and the blacktop path is the village portion.
Okay.
And the village
You still
portion from Ryan to
require-
Jay,
We
Okay,
should be going.
was put in for, as far as pedestrian accommodations.
I
for
wanted to make a
Silver
county board
reconstruction.
joke, but I don't want to have it
That's why the
recorded.
blacktop path. So
Yeah.
instead of a sidewalk, that's. Sorry, yeah. I just asked for the break, just figured. Made
That's a
sense.
great idea. I'm just curious, cause I use that all the time and I'm like, damn, this sucks. I just wanna keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turn around. Go back.
All right, everybody ready?
Yes. No, I'm not. I wanna pick this up. Sorry.
Renee said she must take. Just want to make sure everything's going all right.
Oh,
She's been there for
Yeah,
a little
no,
bit.
it's been fine and we can only butcher so many animals a year, I mean, we can only grow so many, right? And we sell out really quickly. And so then my honey and maple syrup and stuff like that is just not worth my time sitting there. I can sell that all off the farm. So it was good. It just, we sold way faster than I thought we would. And then once I got out of the habit of going. It's nice to have my
Sell it on
Saturdays
eBay.
back, you know?
All right.
Okay, are we
Number 10.
recording or? So number 10, discussion and possible action on playground proposals.
So, we've been talking about this. We had our first initial proposal that came in July. They had a deadline to get them to us. Of course, everybody's being so busy, short-staffed, etc. The second set of proposals came in during our last meeting in September, and they knew the deadline was supposed to be the Wednesday prior. Actually came in during our meeting. I was getting the proposal as we were meeting. And then the third proposal came in. I did put together a spreadsheet, hopefully to make it easier. Unfortunately, there are some items that are a little bit different in each one, so I tried to make it understandable. If you have questions, I understand. So I did highlight each one of the companies in a different color. So the initial proposal, which would be the structures, and then the concrete border, which would be done by a secondary contractor. So I did get a cost, cost from our consultant for the WARP and the master plans, because they just bid out one of these with the 12-inch concrete border. And they said to put in a project dollar amount of $50 per lineal foot. So based on the site plans, the measurements, I just took $50 lineal foot times the border around each of the playgrounds. And then the engineered wood fiber is something that we discussed just because the other surfaces are just way too expensive. You could pay $120,000 for the structures, and then you'd have another $200,000 in safety surfacing, because the safety surfacing is actually more expensive than the structures. So Burke quoted it only as the engineered wood fiber delivered, not installed. The two other companies quoted it as the engineered wood fiber installed with their own border instead of the concrete curb. So they sell a 12-inch deep border that's buried. It's only about 4 inches wide, but it basically provides the same thing. The reason they do it 12 inches is because of the height of the structures, we have to have 12 inches of engineered wood fiber to meet compliance for the surface. So as it deteriorates, sinks, etc., you know how much to add back. Burke does not offer a border similar to the other two companies. They offer an above ground plastic. They call it a stone wall border. I just talked to Weston County today. They got it with one of their playgrounds, and they said it looks really cheesy. I didn't really want their price anyways, because it wasn't comparable to the other two companies. When we talked with Rettler throughout the process of this, they're like, that 12-inch border is what's been working the best. Michael and I talked about it. We could probably do a 6-inch wide by 12-inch deep versus the 12-inch wide. It's more for maintenance purposes because it's at ground level. The only problem with the narrower you go, the more growth over you get, as far as grass, weeds, etc. But Boston Marathon County has completely gone away from their first new playground that they put in was 2020 at Pleasant View Park. They did timbers. They're done doing timbers. They're done doing what these companies provide. They're doing concrete border on everything.
Because you can probably mold right up against.
You mold right around it. You don't have, as timbers move, etc., nails pop out, etc., wood starts to curl just due to shrinkage, etc. So it's something you always constantly have to maintain. Where concrete's going to hold up a lot longer. Yes, there is, pretty extensive cost. When I told Mike what the per lineal foot price was, he's like, well, curb is this much. I'm like, so yeah, it's definitely more expensive. But when I talked to Weston Marathon County today, their last project, they were doing it on their own. They actually brought Reedy's curb in, and they didn't do a full 12-inch by 12-inch. They had the curb company that does the curbing for landscaping. They had them come in and do it. But you just gotta make sure that all your measurements are correct, because these fall zones, they call them fall zones, around these play structures are monstrous. Like, you know, if you have a swing set, the fall zone in front of you has gotta be like 20 feet away, front, 20 feet to the back. Cause you could go flying off of it, you know, so if you ever see our swing set fall zones, they're monstrous, so, the areas are large, so. I tried to make it as understandable as possible. The one that really throws things off is Kennedy. As far as landscape structures, they had, not almost $20,000 of PIP, which is poured in place, which is the, you know, soft surface. It's very expensive. It's a small area of it, and then they had engineered wood fiber all the way around it. And it's not something you have to do. We understand there may be changes in features you want, there may be changes in colors you want. I mean, anything that's got pink in it, or, you know, I mean, I definitely steer away from some of the colors just due to fading, et cetera. But there's some color combinations, like I think a pink and blue I saw on one, and I'm like, I don't know if that's,
For what company?
I think it was, you have Burke in front of you, right now.
They're pretty standard, blue, purple, yellow, green.
Yeah, and like I said, I know it's a lot to look through. Maybe it was the aqua and lemon. On Burke, which would be the first one.
I guess I like the brighter colors just because it draws attention.
Besides every one we have right now is the same color.
Right.
They're all tan, green,
Yeah.
and yellow, with the exception of Mock Miller, which that one we went orange, tan,
Yeah.
and dressed it up a little bit. I like the blues, the lime green on that one. You know, even the orange, green, gray, it kind of blends in a little bit more. It's got a little more natural features. They also, none of them built in any type of shade structures that have to be removed yearly. The most recent proposal was the landscape structures one. And a lot of them do put like sails over the top of them where you actually have to remove the shade right now, but they did not do that. Even the like burgundy red, the dark green, you know, like I said, everything we have now is basically the same. So there's not a lot of variety.
So that roof on Sand Hill, that from Burke, that's a permanent
Yep,
top over that?
yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
58,
Yeah,
yeah.
do you have some?
No, I, as long as you don't have to worry about trying to remove that, I think, you know, for shade protect, you know, I mean, you know, place for the kids to hide when, you know, if everything, a lot of our parks, there's not necessarily a lot of mature trees around, so.
I can verify that on that one. I know when I talked to Doug from Gerber that, you know, none of them would need to be removed. But about this one, I'm not sure from.
That one just looked a little bigger.
Yeah, do they have some reviews on that one maybe? I mean, I like it, I just longevity and everything.
Yeah, I think as far as the structures themselves, they're pretty much the same as far as maintenance, et cetera. It's just when you start adding shade features that are, which this one looks like it is fabric, like a cantilever type, and more likely it would need to be removed. We do have one shade structure that is fabric right now, and that's the one at the farmer's market. And I mean, right now we're at year number 6 or 7 on it. We have not had to replace the fabric on it yet. That's the only one we have out there that we.
Isn't it older than that?
I think it was around 2017, 16 or 17. I'd have to look back in the files to see exactly when it is. I mean, we do make sure we get it down before like the snow comes tomorrow. As I noticed, Green Tech did not pull theirs down yet, and they had damage because they put theirs up too early this spring. Actually ripped out of their building. As I was driving home tonight, I'm like, oh, they didn't pull their structures yet. They got burnt this spring on it. So, and a lot of it just has to do with, and I talked to Jamie earlier today, you know, Burke is limited just due to their production schedule. So if we don't get something with them before Thanksgiving week, more than likely we won't get anything done next year. ARPA funding, we have to have signed contracts by the end of 2024. And projects completed by 2026. So we'd like to have something in place
Great.
anyways. Landscape structures, they are expecting a price increase. These prices are only good till basically the third week of November. As you can see, there's 60-day quotes. I mean, I've been getting 10-day quotes for certain things right now. Steel prices fluctuate constantly. Concrete made another major price increase within like the last month. $186 a yard for concrete right now. That's what somebody just paid that we worked with a week ago. And it was a 145 at the beginning of summer. So constant fluctuation in prices. People are adjusting prices more than once a year or twice a year. That's pretty much ongoing. So it's really, I mean, if you're looking at cost, Burke comes in at the best price in general. But are the structures comparable? That's the thing with doing it this way, where we've like quoted out and then we specified how many play features we want. So the age range for all these is 5 to 12 years old. I didn't specify anything small, but as you notice, some of the manufacturers did put in a structure for 2 to 5 year olds, like a secondary structure at the same site. But then you basically, when you quote it or bid it out, you say, I want 15 activities on this structure in this square footage of area. And then they design it and then they compete against each other. Where we basically had Burke quote it and then the other two companies looked at their proposals. Because Burke's was out there since July and said, we're trying to basically meet the same footprint and be within the same range of cost.
But now we need one for Prohaska, right?
We need one for Prohaska, and we also talked about, which all this was out there before we decided on having a second structure at Yellow Banks. If we wanted 2 at Yellow Banks, just because we have 2 shelters, we have 2 separate park areas. Do we want to add a second play structure there? And then are we going to develop Prohaska fast enough to have something installed there by the end of 26?
And what do we do with the old equipment?
That would be just salvaged for now. We do have somebody,
I'm sorry.
and we do have somebody that just contacted us, a small township that is looking for a used structure, slightly used. Well, ours are a little more than slightly used.
I'm just saying, like,
Some that actually should not even be in service at this point.
is it a liability if at all to donate those?
No, I mean, as long as we're not doing the install and, it's no longer our property.
So we could contact like campsites and see if they, like local campsites and see if they want it.
Yeah, it's just the age of the structures is, what's kind of prohibitive at this point.
Some of them are old.
Most
Very
are from the
old.
90s.
Just a thought.
Yeah. So Sean, it seems like the one that's the furthest off from just sort of making a hole in the ground is Kennedy Park, right? That's the one, we're not, are we close to putting in a new structure there? Because it seems like we have a lot to do with that plan yet.
It could be done regardless.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
So
then-
because we that was designed to be in the same place.
Okay,
Then there'd be
all
an additional structure on the west
Okay, all
side.
right, cool. Then the second part is just the goal is to sort of get as much of this done through ARPA funds as possible, right? So we would want to move that at least through contracts and into a application for ARPA funds so that work can be done looking forward.
Yeah, like literally, I guess. Talking to the finance department.
Yeah.
So based on, it would be ideal for bookkeeping purposes and for, going back to the federal government.
Right.
Where we spent it. Ideally, we pick one manufacturer, we do all the structures.
Right.
If we want to add more, instead of like piecemealing it, well, I want this one from this company,
Yeah.
I want this one from this company, this one from this company, et cetera. So if we could, obviously, we don't need to spend, there's 1.1 million approximately available in ARPA funds yet that the village has. There are some other thoughts out there as far as other things that can be done within the village or even within the parks. Say we add another structure to Yellow Banks, or we decide we're gonna do Prohaska, because we do have funds budgeted in the CIP for Prohaska right now, for development. So we could technically start developing that parks.
Yeah.
And get a play structure in there right away.
But what you were saying about some of these facilities are beyond their sort of normal end date. It seems like this is where some of that focus should be, just sort of specifically on chronology.
Yeah, and there are ones that we would pick if we decided not to do all of them at once. So if we're not gonna do all 6, I would say Yellowbanks, Kellyland, and Sand Hill are the top 3. Right?
Mhm.
So those would be the top 3 that I would say need to be done right away. We have a rusted out platform at Sand Hill. We have a rusted out platform at Yellowbanks. We have exposed rust and stuff at Kellyland right now. And then Bachmiller, we're planning on replacing that one, was put up in 2007. So it is the newest. It's still 16 years old, but it's the newest. The rest of them are, 90s. They were almost all done, because all our development in the village was, like up through 2003. The next newest one we have is Kennedy, and that was we replaced a wooden structure in 2002. So that one's still 21 years old. So ideally, we would do
Those 3.
we would do all 6, but we don't have to do them all in 1 year.
But
We could do them all.
the 3 that you've targeted, right, have the most immediate need.
Yes.
So, okay.
But it would be a package deal.
Ideally, yes, and we would be replacing not just the play structure, we're also doing swings, we're adding additional features. We're gonna upgrade stuff because it's not the only thing that looks old and dated and needs replaced. I hate to say it, but you go to Rodwood, look at the benches, Sand Hill, look at the benches, go to Kellyland, look at the benches. Actually, the one at bench at Kellyland got all the wood and plaque put back on it last year, but it all needs, and based on, all 3 of the plans say for Kellyland. I know that the other manufacturers looked at what was in the packet in July, because they all did an L-shaped playground at Kellyland. Well, where did that come?
Right.
They took out the volleyball court at Kellyland. Based on their plans, the L-shape they did. And we know that volleyball court gets used at least 8 weeks a year right now for Muscle educators. Volleyball court at Kennedy probably could come up. The volleyball at the pool gets used all the time. Does, but the one at the park, we have 2, we have one at the park that doesn't use it. So like I said, this is just a plan, nothing's, our plans can be approved, but it doesn't mean that's how it's
If
gonna
it's not being used, you would
You're gonna
know.
make changes
Why
and
would you
adjustments
wanna
when you actually do the design. These are concepts.
Have you worked with any of these vendors prior?
Worked with Lee Recreation, which is the one that provide Burke. They're the ones that they actually used to be Play World. They used to oversee Play World play structures. They did the play structure at Mockmiller. And Lee Recreation is great to work with. It's a family-run company. You got Vern and his wife and his son work there. So they took over Burke because
And they're local, right?
they're Cambridge.
And they're the ones they're the financial outlier.
They're the lowest price. Burke is the one that's based in Wisconsin, South Fond du Lac, the manufacturer.
But that's without the borders.
Right, yeah.
And I listed it by the manufacturer because Durable Leisure does landscape structures and Minnesota, Wisconsin Playground does game time. And part of it was because we're doing the Omnia pricing, which is the Omnia contract, which is our national pricing where we don't have to put it up for bids.
Right.
So it's a purchasing contract. We can actually get better pricing. We could actually get better pricing if we didn't go through Omnia.
I like the white.
So
Something that changed.
Jim's asking about my reading, I guess.
No, but I don't know, nothing's changed. Something that changed.
So
I guess, yeah, and to add to that, for our conversation today, you said that if we go with Burke, we can contract out,
All of them we would be contracting out the concrete border regardless.
border.
That would be regardless of the manufacturer, because we did not specify them doing the concrete border. And most of them don't. I talked to Weston today. Their most recent project is the first time they actually made the playground installer do the concrete board. Because they install playgrounds, not concrete.
Right.
And then Weston Marathon County's done a lot of it on their own. They have the concrete guys to do it on staff.
And I'm sorry, what did you estimate that all 6 parks would be the total to contract that out?
So if you look at the breakdown, the grand total for Burke would be 493. Game time would be 684. And landscape structures is 792. Of course, like I said, Burke is, they also didn't figure in installation of the surfacing, which is the engineered wood fiber, which is wood chips.
Yeah.
So that installation would be on us unless we want to contract it out. And the other companies, assuming they both specified it because they bring in a truck with a blower and they blow it, install it.
Mm-hmm.
Which we've always talked about actually renting one if we could, because installing mulch by shovel, is a lot of work. And you can get a blower, a closed blower truck and literally blow it in. And I know there's a company in town that has one. It's not an enclosed blower or a truck. You know, and I would not ever justify that because we only do it once a year.
Yeah.
But like for a large landscape company like there is in town here, like you just keep loading that hopper and there's got guys hauling the 6-inch hose and you can just blow it in instead of carrying shovels and wheelbarrows.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately there's actually a company in town that has one right now. But if you go in the big cities, that's all they use. How do you get properties and stuff and do the install? So, and like I said, Burke is obviously the lowest. If you look at the way I broke it down in the spreadsheet. So for each one, I got the structures and then I have the concrete border. And then the next item was supposed to be the engineered wood fiber. Well, Burke did delivered only. They gave me a quantity with the estimated cost. As you can see, most of them are between $3 and $4 and a little over $5,000 for the and the yardage. Game time and landscape structures combined their installation and then the border all in a lump sum. So I didn't have a broken out number. So if we say we went without the border, it would that number of that's 22,000 for a game time on the second line down would not be 22,000. It would just be the engineered wood fiber installed with no border. I tried to make it so it looked approximately the same, but because the posts were just a little bit different, it was hard to do. And then I put concrete border in there because we talked about that 2 meetings already. That is the best route to go. Maintenance wise, longevity wise, we know it's a big expense, but you know, is it a big expense? $13,000 and you have concrete border to maintain it around it and you shouldn't have to do anything with it. Hardly. You know, for the future, you have a 20-year lifespan of issues. So, and then like I said, landscape structures just didn't need to put in that boarding place. It's $20,000. It's just in the center. It was like an excellent area and a small area. But you know, the proposals, you know, like Burke's proposal for 6 structures is like 20-some pages long, and then you have the game time one, which is 130 pages. Like each proposal was 20 pages. For 6 of them. So it's a lot to look through. That's why I wanted to combine it down, and then you can just look at if you thought the structures look good, like does it offer the features you want? So if it doesn't, I mean, at least you have the price. I do have a couple pictures of the border. This is over at Marathon Park, so that's the 12-inch wide curb. It's flush with the playground, it's flush with the grass. Right now, if you drive around any of our parks, you're gonna see timbers that are all kittywampus and above ground. And I mean, they're better than what they were when I started. So we have no falls. We have swimming on dirt, big holes and no falls. So we did a bunch of timbers in 2003, 2004, right? Around all of our stuff because there were no falls. And right now we have all this stuff. Sands.
Nor,
And they're all sand.
whatever happened to metal slides?
So, well, we're trying to bring ourselves up to the new century. Because then, you know, I mean, if we need to, there is some certified playground inspectors over at Western County. There's actually a certification course that one of us can become a certified playground instructor or inspector to make sure that our playgrounds are compliant. We know they're not, so it's, you know, it's like, how do you fix it when you technically don't have the means to do it? So right now is a great opportunity. I think that's why the board was looking at. We have the opportunity to upgrade and do a lot to our parks, and it touches the village. Not individual people, it touches more of the village because you have all these parks in different areas, and it's gonna touch a lot of people versus, oh, let's just fix this one road, or let's just fix this one water main. It's gonna touch a big part of the village, you know.
So then, for me, it doesn't seem like there, I mean, yeah, there's variables of all the stuff that goes in the park and all of that sort of stuff, and I'm probably done going down slides myself, so it's not something I have to think about too much. But is the question that's really at hand, do we want to do this, and what sequence we want to do this, and who we want to do it with?
Yeah, pretty much. And you could choose to do all the structures next year. You could choose to do 2, 3 next year, 2, 3 the following year. So if you see the way I drafted the motion was
Yeah.
this many locations at these locations. Because I didn't make that decision. I just put it out there. And we know we have the funds available to do all 6. Do we want to add 2 of the yellow banks? Because there is 2 separate shelter areas. So if you rent the west side of the park, you don't have any play area for the group that's using that area. They would have to go to the east side of the park. So, you know, I mean, it's entirely up to you if you want to move forward with this. And if you want to do it right now, we just know that there's to some extent there is a need to do it, you know, with FERC. And we have contact with this place because otherwise they won't get anything done because their production time is. And if you look at their proposal, it varies on structure. Like there's one that says 12 weeks, one says 18 weeks. When I initially met with them, Jamie and I met with them, the production was like 3 weeks. You know, and that's 30 weeks. Well, it's not going to install next year, and if you're doing that many of them, you know. But one of the companies I talked to, they did 10 installations in one city this year. They did 10 parks. We brought an installation through.
I mean, I'm super excited to update the playground structures, but is there some benefit in not in staggering them some? So in 25 years, when we have to do them again, we stagger them again. It's not.
And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. It's just we have the ability to do it.
Start fresh.
Because
And we have the ARPA window.
so not all the parks were built at the same time. They were all built in a span of like 95 to 2000. So, you know, you have a play structure at Kelly Lands from 2007. And you have one, like I said, Samuel, you know, but yes, that is a good point. But they don't like all age out. It's just, and
We have the funding right now.
yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the advantages where we don't have to utilize CIP funding or borrow money to do this. And I mean, the amount of maintenance we do to them is minimal. But we replaced the bridge at Sandhill, we replaced a platform also. But really it's minimal maintenance for the age of what they are.
We have play structures where we remove slides totally.
Yeah, so, so there's an entanglement issue with slide links and Williams. There was a recall entanglement, it was a spiral slider with multiple pieces where you could actually get your hair in between pieces are going down the
Yeah.
side. So
That's
when
happened.
we went to repair them, we actually ended up having to remove them. And the only options they offered us was like adding another slide pole to the slide down pole. So we have it on the other side of the place. We're like,
Like a fireman.
two of the exact same things. Fireman pole, yeah. So,
I would definitely be for putting two structures in. Yeah, how far apart are the shelters?
A long ways.
Long ways.
and we talked about this, and you guys both, you all recommended that. It was just when I took structures. Okay.
So now
As
it's
we
7.
know,
No,
these
it's-
proposals took a long time regardless,
No, now it's 8 because Ken.
but we're not including that, because that's part of the master plan.
Yeah.
Because we're not just gonna go like throw a play structure up on the west side of Kennedy or how about doing any of the other work there. probably.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's 7.
7.
It would be 7, and then if
Yeah.
you wanted to add the hospital.
I think it should be just, for me, I'd like it to be 7. Just so that we can get going. You know, I mean, we have this window, we have these dollars that are on the table. Some of the village board members have indicated they're supportive of the idea. So we should pick up the money and do this.
Would we use CIP funds for,
More than likely, it would be borrowed funds, but.
Yeah.
Part of the development, but right now I would look at the 6, and then we'll look at another design for the 7th.
Yeah.
Unless there's a design that you like within the 6 from one of the other parks where you put 2 different ones at Yellow Banks within the current designs.
Yeah, I'm not that picky.
Yeah, that's way too operational for me.
I kind of am,
Okay.
because,
Like I said, the one you had the opportunity to review the most, that you've had the longest. Is,
there's just some suggestions, you know, these plastic, the traditional carousel, versus, this plastic blob.
Amy, can you talk more into the mic? Jim's having a hard time hearing you.
Hi, Jim.
Actually, he's having a hard time hearing everybody up front.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Jim?
Talking to each other.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
So.
I've never
what
been
I'm
accused of being
noticing
too
with
quiet
these
anywhere.
plans, you refer to Yellow Banks, it has the more traditional carousel. And then if you refer to Kelly Land, it has a plastic blob. And from talking to kids, it's hard, correct, it's hard to move. It's not fun.
Yep, I totally get that.
So there's a few of those, on this plan. There's one at Kennedy, whatever, we can review them. But my suggestion would be to do the more traditional, it's $800 difference.
I would fully trust your judgment on your recommendations of specific
you're talking about
elements.
the carousel, which you mentioned today when we talked to.
Correct.
Unfortunately, the traditional carousels now have speed limiters on.
Okay.
They're not.
They're
Is
governed.
that a thing?
For a while.
Yeah, so we have them at all of our parks, but they're the old ones with just a bearing and there's no speed limiter,
Yeah.
so you can get it going as fast as you want.
I know Kennedy Park.
I'm serious. They put speed limiters on them a long time ago. Ours are just so old that literally you can spin them as fast as you want.
That doesn't have much of a fall zone, safety fall zone.
Yeah, the fall wasn't always the thing, was the idiot kid sticking his hand or his head back in the speed, the spinning. Saying,
You
not
wanna
me.
make sure their shoe falls off. No.
There's literally a trench around all of ours from where they'd run.
Yes.
With that,
Does anybody recommend a manufacturer in general? I mean, if you're looking at costs, we know.
Yeah.
my
Bert.
recommend-
Right now we have 6 perk structures.
Yes.
We do.
Do you like them?
I would say they've done well for us, with the exception of, so there's been a safety recall on all of our structures because they're all built during the same time period. So we have to replace clamps on them, on the platforms, on the structures pretty much annually. And they're still covering them because it is a safety recall, so it has ended. They're just hoping that probably some people will actually get rid of their structures from the 90s and 2000s, because literally we inspected, we had 2 boxes of clamps sitting back there right now that need to be replaced on our structures. That we had ordered this spring, so it's I've met with the president of Burke, he was up here a few years ago. You know, I know landscape structures is good. I talked to Weston today again about them, just in general, as far as quality equipment. They have a mixed bag, they don't use just one manufacturer, it all depends on what, you know, what the price comes in at. Of course, it's easier to work with one manufacturer, because you only have to deal with one vendor than when you're ordering parts, et cetera.
And Burke is made in USA.
Made in Fond du Lac. Landscape Structures in Minnesota. Game Time is probably called Playcore parent company. They're the largest manufacturer, the largest overall. So Game Time is. But as you know, the bigger you get, the higher your costs are gonna be, right? Typically, I mean, you have.
Do we have handicap equipment?
So all this is handicap accessible. And all that means is the surfacing you have, engineered wood fiber is handicap accessible, but it is wood fiber. The structure is accessible, is not all access structure. That's what we talked about at Kennedy. Like that far west one, doing a larger all access where you can do side-by-side play. So you can have somebody in a wheelchair on the structure, somebody on the ground, walking or running, or vice versa. That's where you more get into tile surface, poured in place surface. So it's like JoJo's, you know, which is, you know, in Wausau or the Cash Playground, Stevens Point. That's what you call all access playground. So you can do side-by-side play. They can access not necessarily all the ramps, all the features, but a majority of them. If you've ever been taking your kids down to the Cash Playground, which I did when my son was younger, like you have a ramp up to a feature, and it's a 4-to-1 slope. It's not a very steep grade. You can get to a platform. You have some steering wheels, some other features you can do from your wheelchair, etc. But it's not just wheelchair accessible; it's all access. And then you have to look at colors, because then you're dealing with various different things that children deal with. Certain colors you can't use on structures. We went through this process in 2008 when we were looking at.
Yeah, hold on, what? Autistic.
Colors that
Autistic.
program off.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. They also suggest if you're serving an autistic population, you put in cooling colors, because they overheat a lot.
Okay.
So there's a lot to look at when you're doing an all access playground. It's not just the playground itself.
Right.
Yellows either. Was it red and yellows?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, don't trust my judgment on it. I mean, I can bring in somebody that does the all access and they will literally go through it. We went through it in 2008 when we were looking at the Bounds Playground, which is an all access playground, but it's by a certain company designed by Bounds. So. Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't want to even delve into what it all is, but there is a lot involved in that.
How about swings? I mean, do we have handicap
All
swings?
all new swings. They would have a.
I don't see any handicap swings.
Just baby swings?
Depends on which manufacturer you're looking at.
They have any bigger handicap swings?
So there are a couple manufacturers that installed, so like the Burke ones is a 3-bay, but they just had 2 belt swings and 2 infant, and that's what we currently have on all of ours. We don't have any of the handicapped ones, but it's something we could, put in, like, so this one at Sandhill, they got a 2-bay, and then the next one they got a 3-bay, which is, or not that next one, but so Kellyland, they have a 3-bay where you have 4 belt swings and then 2 child, where you could put in a handicap or 2 handicap too. Because right now all of ours are just 4. That's 2 belt, 2 infant. So, like I said, we're looking for what you would want.
Yeah, it's.
And we could look at handicap and maybe, is it every park? Or is it just the community parks, not the neighborhood ones, the larger parks?
Really larger.
So like Yellow Banks, Kennedy, Kellyland, and Mockmiller are currently our 4, community parks. Our neighborhood parks are Sandhill, Robinwood, Williams. Kennedy, of course, would, be one.
So, yeah, and then I noticed, on the website that Bert also offered, like an obstacle course with a timer. Maybe we can, because Yellow Banks is going to have two play structures, maybe we can do one structure and one obstacle course. I know, that's what my kids go to. Has a timer.
I was just down there last week too.
And then
Trust me, I was doing my homework. I was driving around.
That's really neat.
Checking them all out.
And
But they also have, so one of the things that certain things we kind of steered away from was all the ropes, cable stuff. Because it's the maintenance on it and replacing it. So Wassa would probably never go with another one like they have down at River Life. Just because of the maintenance, the play structure there with all the overhead walkways and all the netting on the outside of it.
Yeah.
The one next to the, what you're talking about, like the
exercise equipment and then.
physical challenge course.
Yes, physical challenge.
So they have, next to it, they have the big netted structure.
Yeah, no, not any of that.
And that's, I mean, yes, they look fun, it looks pretty, you have all this netting, but they are a maintenance nightmare, because think about it,
Oh, yeah.
it's not gonna hold up, it's not gonna last like a traditional structure. Even the one at Weston School, if you've seen the new ones out there, I mean, they look beautiful. I mean, of course, you got shiny paint, you got all the webbing, they actually, it's like an octagon shaped one, if you see it when you drive through there. So they look enticing, but I'm not a 5 to 12-year-old child either. Do they actually like them? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and your kids are in various age stages.
9 to 12,
Yeah, so I mean,
Do you want a 6 and a 10-year-old? I'll donate them.
I also have a kid, so
Yeah, but we
familiar with what the kids go to.
workers that we don't travel to other areas and they tell us the parks they like. Everybody likes JoJo's,
Yeah, they do.
yeah, you've been there before. Most of the schools have updated equipment. Like if you go up to the Wassa schools, I mean, I used to take my son up to the Wassa schools because they had new equipment when he was young. Now their equipment's already old too, so it's an ongoing battle, basically, but.
Do they still make trolleys?
Little race side down it. Yeah, so, they do, there's various ones they do, they have one that you can hold on to, they have ones you can sit on now.
The handle up above.
Yeah. But they have ones where you can sit on, so it's a post coming down with a round seat, and you climb on it, and then you sit on it instead of having to use your physical strength to hold on to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like anybody can use it.
She's like, I don't know.
So we actually had proposed one a few years ago, and I think you maybe remember it. We're gonna go with the town of Weston, remember they had some park
Yes.
identification funds? And they decided after went through the whole process, getting the quotes, come here, and they're like, well, we're gonna use our funds for a bridge. instead. We're gonna cost share with them, because they cost shared in the other part of Buckner with us. So if you wanna see where they spent it, there's a bridge down on Hawthorne, a walking pedestrian bridge that they put in, when we're gonna cost share on one of those. I don't remember the exact name of what it's called, but they're quite pricey, and like I said, there are a lot of options out there. Different types.
Didn't they refer to that as a zip line?
Zip line, but they also have, so now they have one where you don't even have to go back and get it. They have loop ones, so it's got 3 platforms, you can get on it, and you can ride the loop all the way around, and it returns back to the same platform.
That's kind of fun.
Instead of, straight down, straight back. So there are a lot of options, actually. Landscape Structures, I believe, is the one that quoted it for us, and I could probably look it up on my email from 2017, I think it was. It's quite big.
Triple the price.
Yeah, probably,
That's right.
so.
Yeah, I really like the obstacle course. Implement that maybe at Yellow Bank, so we're not. I think we're excited in having 2 of the same play structures in that area, so just kind of mix it up a little bit, have some variety.
So they're in, you know, based on their proposals, they're various stages, so I just brought up landscape structure, so here's Kenny. If you look at the blue portion, that would be the ported place. They incorporated some different type of shade structures, so you have like looks like a hot air balloon in a basket here. This is a new thing that I think most of the manufacturers come out with. It's like a 4-person teeter-totter. It's handicap accessible right here in the center structure.
Mountain Bay has
This one, it does have a bunch of the netting on it, so the net walkway, bridge, etc. This is not one of your more traditional. This is a roller slide over on the right, so it's all rollers. So you just really zoomed on it, you know. It's probably got speed limiters on it too, though. So
So you get your hair cut?
I'm not worried about getting there.
Yeah, how's that safer?
I don't know. So, I
Little
mean,
fingers getting stuck in there, things popping off, toes gone.
no,
I
I
just- Yeah.
don't know if it's metal rollers. So it'd be like the old stainless steel slides.
That's what I was asking, cause it was silver, great.
So I mean, like I said, some of them get so expensive.
Yeah.
You know, lots of you know,
Oh, they're probably plastic. No, they look plastic.
I would think they are.
Which one do you prefer, Sean? Which one did you like?
I'm like not here, so I don't really get a choice in it. No, I'm joking. Of course, as the village, as a village representative, I would look at the financial side.
Right.
They all serve the same purpose. If they're gonna say this serve the same purpose for the village, and same play value for the users, of course, would recommend going with the cheapest,
Least expensive.
least expensive. So if the $700,000 one is more than the $500,000 proposal, then, you know, I may recommend that. And I was joking when I said that, I don't have it. But I typically don't wanna make a recommendation, but yes, financially, for the village, I would try to do that, the best for the village.
Quality and,
And I know the brick quality, I mean, like I said, we don't have game time, we don't have landscape structures. Before we started this whole process, I talked to Jamie at Western Maryland County, the director, and they have a combination of mostly brick and landscape structures. So she said she would focus on those two. Game time got in because of the Omnia thing. So as soon as Omnia got involved, I got calls from so many manufacturers, and I was like, I don't even really want to do 3. This comp band called me 2. Little tykes. So they were doing, Weston was doing little tykes. They've had not as much luck with little tykes, so they're steering away from that. And they are in the process of a 5 to 7 year plan to replace all their play structures that they started in 2020. Of course, they're still limited to, they still look at price. You know, they don't just say, hey, I'm gonna take the cheapest. They look at, you know, quality. So they have a combination mostly brick and landscape structure. They actually went over and toured the landscape structures. And the director previously worked in Minnesota and worked with landscape structures a lot, where our previous director put brick structures in almost all 3 of the municipalities he worked in. So I don't know if he had a good connection with them, but it is a main state also. And that's one of the things where we try to focus on, buy whatever you can within Weston, but of course you want to purchase within the state, you know, if possible, but landscape structures in Minnesota. So no slighting anything from Minnesota, but for my recommendation, if it serves the same play value, it's nice. But if you don't like the design, the structures, the colors are not gonna change price. It's just features are gonna change.
well, not only that, we can contract locally for the edging and
Yeah, the curbing would be contracted locally, ideally. We would be doing all the removal of existing structures, and we would be doing the excavating. And I say we as in we, the village. Because it's not we, the Parks Department, it's we, the village. So I look at it like, oh, street department has all those. So, so it's like this one here, as Jamie brought up before, and I looked at all of these proposals, and there's lots of pages, so like this one has, you know, 3 normal belt swings and then a handicap accessible seat. You know, so any combination, you know, if you have just a 4-seat like that, which they call a 2-bay, because it's 2 separate bays. You know, they don't even have and the handicap one can serve as a somewhat of a like toddler, you know, swing seat. But I wouldn't say it's really an infant swing.
Yeah.
But there-
Kids do like those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just kind of don't want to take away from any other swings either, because they do a bay and a half and put. You know. Put it
Like I said, you can add a bay. Actually, there's a price in one of them. I'm not sure which one it was, but you can add an entire another bay. But then you're expanding your fall zones, you're expanding the area you're covering. So there's gonna be additional costs besides just adding another swing to it.
Oh,
So,
Gotta have so much room between them.
yeah, and so, I mean, I think ideally, we would look at the ones that have 3 bays. And not
take away.
2,
Okay.
and not necessarily put a handicap one at every park. And
No, I
I
like
wouldn't
that.
say it that way, but I mean,
Right.
The higher.
smaller
demand,
neighborhood parks,
yes.
but if you have a, you know, a community park,
Okay.
I would say,
Yeah, that makes
like I said, Kennedy's got a 3-bay, which is available for 6 swings. So you can do 2 infant, 2 regular, and 2 handicap, or you can do 1 handicap, you know, 3 regular, 2 infant. Right now, it's just 2 and 2 for all of us, all of ours.
I did just see.
I was waiting for you to see it.
What's that?
No, I didn't realize there was an additional swing to the left of the handicap swing.
Oh, they do have an infant one on there.
Yes, they do.
Is that-
Added a single arm.
Yeah, I don't know. light
I was
bulb
waiting
went
for you to see it.
It's hard to see though.
It
Yeah.
is.
Oh, it is.
Blends
Yeah.
in.
So they covered all their bases there with like a 2 1/4.
Yeah, I really I like that idea.
So my thoughts go into it like. A lot of times when you take your little kids to the park, like an infant, you go with a friend and they bring their little infant. So what if you don't have 2 infant swings? That makes sense. To anybody?
Yeah, but I
Like,
didn't
when
I don't think
you
people
had
have-
young
have
kids,
them close together.
no, did a friend go with you that had another kid the same age to the park? And you put them in the swing at the same time?
I don't-
Michael's probably like,
I was just gonna go the opposite way. When you're getting out of the house with 2 kids and you got one in an infant swing and one that maybe can't quite go on a regular swing yet, that's where that accessible swing comes in nice and handy.
True.
2, 3-year-old can at least balance themselves while you're
Yeah.
pushing 2 kids versus worrying about them
Mhm.
falling off, so.
That's a good point. I do like that setup. That's a nice setup.
I think that might be how Gasca Park is. Have to look.
But what, I'm sorry, what park is that?
this is Yellow Banks.
Yeah, so if maybe we can incorporate those swings
So this is landscape structures design.
into.
We can look further at like Berth and see if they offer something similar,
Yeah,
you know, like adding that 5th or a 6th, you know.
because they take up a lot of room with this one pair swing here, which I'm not opposed to the pairs, but.
If you look at the measurements of the fall zones, you'd be shocked on the size. They're so huge.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was a factor.
They are so huge.
So.
And they have them like right here, so. This one right here is 330 feet of border. So you're talking the length of a football field
Right.
around the perimeter of it. And the plan itself shows the size, but. So like this one here at Kelly Land, they incorporated, this is all one. This is all one fall zone, so this entire perimeter all around here, even though it shows separate structures, the
Mhm.
entire thing is surrounded. They specify, so if you go on their website and you look at play structure, it literally tells you the size of the fall zone. And it's huge. And then you incorporate multiple features into it, so then you have a lot of, by incorporating all in one area, you're actually making it larger than it needs to be. If you had them in separate areas, it wouldn't be quite as huge. But
Maybe less impressive. One big.
yeah, I think incorporating it all in one makes sense.
Yeah,
Maintenance purposes, etc. You know, a lot less, you actually probably end up with less border because you're not surrounding.
right.
Surrounding 4 different structures based on 5 different structures, the way they have it laid out.
So how do we move forward with, this?
So if you would make a recommendation to go with a certain manufacturer, obviously you don't have to specify dollar amount at this point, you're just making a recommendation on the manufacturer. If you like the structures, if you want to focus on those structures themselves. And say, I want to change colors, or I want to change these features. But now if you have a manufacturer recommendation, you can focus on that
Right.
one.
Yeah,
It's the
nice.
shortest proposal in the entire package, too, out of all three.
So we can recommend a manufacturer
Yep.
and we can,
And then we
start
can
by making changes to the
Right.
first
start
three.
narrowing down the details within each.
What you want in each part.
In the motion or?
No, I
later?
mean,
After the motion.
you could, after the motion, you could approve the manufacturer, and then if we want to whittle down the designs,
The way to, we want
you could do it before you make the motion. If you really want to do that all tonight, or you could approve the manufacturer. And then you can delve into that 20 pages.
Right.
It's only 28 pages for Burke. It's not like Game Time just was 120 pages of for 6.
Right.
And then just, you know, share your comments with me as quick as possible, because we know we got.
Right. That's,
It's gonna go to the board either the 20th, if that meets the deadline with Burke, or I may be calling another special board meeting, which we have one this week, Thursday already.
Okay.
Just if we wanna lock it in and be able to accommodate,
right,
getting something put in next year, like moving this project forward.
right.
Do you wanna do 3? Do you wanna do all 6? Do you wanna do 7 next year? If they can accommodate it, I know they're all busy. Burke is actually doing some in Wausau right now that were supposed to be done last year,
Oh, that's not a good sign.
because they just got so backed up. So, I mean, I don't think we're the only ones using ARPA funds for putting in playgrounds right now. So,
All right, I'm ready to move.
Okay.
I move to recommend replacing 7 play areas in 2024. And using Burke as the manufacturer.
First by Carvino, second by Clark. Motion's been approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any more discussion? Opposed? Next meeting, are we on? November 27th, 2023. Topics for future meetings. Which would
we
be-
got a big amount accomplished tonight.
We did, which,
Mhm.
I mean, we set the groundwork at the last meeting for some of this, you know, and then obviously having some of this stuff in advance helps. You know, I was able to send you out the play structure stuff for the second proposal right away, and the third one finally came in last Tuesday. Yeah, last Tuesday, Wednesday, no, Wednesday when I was at Stevens Point for training. But we do have topics for future meetings. I was just concentrating. I could have put more on tonight's agenda. I figured, you know, this was enough to make a reasonable meeting. Like, I want everybody's attention, and the longer it gets, so, you know, sometimes that the meetings don't accomplish anything. So, we do have future agenda items based on some of the stuff that we.
well, every
Last
action that we took. today.
Yeah, so-
There are changes for every action.
Yeah, so like I said, ideally, maybe I'll call a special meeting for committee to go over things to. Play structures before we go to the board. We can, at least if we go to the finance and board, approve a cap on the dollar amount.
Right, yeah,
And we have weeks to delve into the details for.
right. Yeah, you can then move operational.
Say we're at, 500,000, they said cap was 600, then at least we know what it is.
Yeah, right,
And then you set a cap of 300, then we have to make a decision which one to do.
right.
So,
But we're at 5 without the borders at this point with the 6 structures, not 7.
right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the finance and board will make the financial side decision.
Right.
You don't think that stuff. They will determine that amount.
So maybe they'll give us more.
How much to give us?
Well,
They need to know what we're working with and why we can't.
no, I mean, they literally, what we've been told is the whole, pretty much the whole 1.1 is available for this. They asked if we had the ability to spend it.
Right.
Okay.
You know, but there are some other things that been thrown out since then. The Christmas lights.
Right. Well, I thought it was
You know-
1.4 and now it's 1.1.
No, it's not. It is that one.
Sean's
It
gonna
wasn't?
buy one of
Okay.
those.
We originally started with 2.4. Right?
Oh, maybe that's what.
2.2.
2.2.
Okay,
So I had 1. I'm
a
just.
lot of money.
We have the funds.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
And we have the funds. Okay.
it's only
They just
money.
need to be approved, right?
Yeah, and they may say, you want to do part of it in CIP, you know, I mean, I don't make that decision.
So,
Yeah, just for Haska.
well, we talk about CIP, the last 5-year plan that the board adopted this past fall, that did have, I think generally anywhere from 100 to 250,000 a year set aside for one park. For play
For
structures and
yeah.
some of that stuff, so if ARPA funds are used, it does free up CIP money, or CIP money, it will not be used then because of the
Right.
ARPA funds,
So it's reducing borrowing,
yeah.
Right. Don't have to.
or, you know, there's lots of things to, that we can accomplish with it, so.
Yeah.
We're pretty much at remarks from staff, and I think we're already doing that. I did throw my report back in the packet, which I emailed to you prior to the last board meeting. And I had a couple examples of all the sign projects completely done. So all the park signs are done, all the directional signs. Hope you like them.
They're nice.
The directional signs are like updated. They're not like the ones out on the streets. They have the new tree, the scribble tree, I call it.
Yeah.
The one that looks like scribble.
Squiggle.
Yeah, the squiggle. Instead of the actual pine tree on the right hand side. So if you look at the 2 directional signs at the dog park, those 2 were upgraded. And then
That's
all
been
the
2 months.
And all the park signs have been changed, and 2 have been installed at Prosk already.
Mm-hmm.
So
They look good.
that is a big, long park though. I mean, that's a big area. I mean, you're talking 87 acres, so it's bigger than any of our other parks at this point. So once it gets developed, I mean, Kennedy's 37.3, 38.3. And so you're talking 87 acres.
So, topics for future meetings, we're gonna say, changes for, comprehensive outdoor.
Playgrounds, and then-
Alaska playground.
Yeah.
And, getting approval amount from the board.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so, like I said, this stuff will go probably to a special board meeting. Actually, it's gonna go on Thursday's agenda this week.
Mhm.
You saw the draft agenda today?
No, I didn't, I was working. on this.
Okay, so Pam sent out a draft agenda this morning and added the playground proposals to it because I had talked to them about doing a special meeting. Well, they're already doing a special meeting this Thursday, so should we just get it to the board?
Yep.
And then we can move forward. We'll have
Right.
it for the deadline and we can start moving forward with it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I have to call another special board meeting.
I have a conflict, I have teacher conflict.
Oh, yeah, Thursday at 5:30, right?
It's at my.
Yeah. The meeting's at 5:30. And there's only one other thing on the agenda. So. 2 other things now? Well, just to play around proposals and then the closed session.
I added a quick resolution. It really should only be a 1 minute add-on, but.
No debate, right?
Okay,
So, yes, Michael, staff comments,
No, nope.
okay.
committee comments,
We're good. Okay, announcements. Do we have a motion to adjourn Parks and Rec meeting?
So move.
We have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Motion's been approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any more in discussion? Opposed, motion passed. Parks and Rec meeting is now.
thank you all. Keep it under 3, 7:45 right now.